I support a lot of things. So I think the main thing that I've been focusing on lately has obviously been like, social justice when it comes to racial inequality, mainly because like myself moving around and like again like the things I just told you, like racism and like that kind of discrimination has not just affected me, but I've seen it so much. Like I have seen my friends be like just berated even just behind their back because of who they are. The other thing is like sexism, like feminism is a huge thing because there's so many, I guess, like crosses there. And then there are so many things that affect me as a woman that I know not many people talk about anymore or don't talk about at all. Like female health issues, like reproductive issues, or like endometriosis or PMDD or any of those things. Like I try to be like, you know what, guys, I suffer from this, and I know a lot of you guys probably do too, but we never talk about it as like a society, as like a group.
Don't talk about that in front of other people.
And in front of men, like people be like, "Oh, you're talking about your period in front of a man." I'm like, I've been doing that forever. I don't care. Like I'm in high school, I'll be like, "All right, anyone have a tampon?" And my teacher be like, "You don't talk about that." I was like, "Why? Are the boys not supposed to know I bleed?"
Yeah.
And my teacher was like, "Don't say that." I was like, "What? Bleeding?" Like, it's just, it's something that happens to like half the population.
But that's how you destroy stigma. You know, just talking about
just
it and being
talk
open.
about it.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yo, what's up? This is Boho Hobo, and we welcome you all back to BINDLISM, a philosophy to a self-sufficient lifestyle. The purpose of BINDLISM is to unlock authentic perspective as we create a community of like-minded individuals who are living a self-sufficient lifestyle. A self-sufficient lifestyle is one in which a human being is activating their self-awareness to curate an authentic life that keeps them sustained mentally, emotionally, and physically in their adventure towards self-fulfillment. Boho Hobo's mission is to support a community that fosters this culture. We will be interviewing a diverse group of people, including artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, and independent thinkers to make this happen. Please join us in this journey as we explore the world and broaden our horizons with discoveries of new perspective. Thank you to everyone who is taking the time to stop by on your journey to give us a listen. We hope you enjoy, and as always, explore endlessly.
This is episode 61. We're here with Eliza Jeffers.
Hi.
And if you want, why don't you just introduce yourself real quick and we'll just get into the combo.
All right. My name is Eliza. I am an artist here in Syracuse. I do a lot of different things besides just like, I guess, art painting wise. I teach art. I, do fashion shows. I bartend. Like all types of stuff. I don't know what else.
What's
about
your favorite
me?
thing out of all those different things?
I love painting. Like I love painting.
Okay.
That's what I do the most of. That's what I do a lot on my streams. That's what I teach a lot. It's just painting. I love the physical application of color. That's what I love. I love like playing with it, whether it's with my hands, whether it's like there's times where I'll be on stream and I'll have like my body paint out and I'll paint myself blue. And like people be like, "Why are you painting yourself blue?" I'm like, "Because I feel like being blue today." Like that's literally it. And then I tell, because if I have a younger audience, I'll say, "This is what's good about being an adult. No one can tell you can't paint yourself blue."
So is body art your favorite medium of painting, or is it?
It's all like I love body art. I don't think I could do it all the time though. I love body art. I like canvas painting. And I do like abstracts, but then I paint something that like is very like a female form over it. I do a lot of stuff like that that I like because I don't know. I like the idea of doing an abstract because I like when you let the painting kind of do what it wants. And when I teach abstract, that's what I tell the people in my class as I say, whatever you're planning on doing, it's not going to happen. Like you need to let the paint do what it wants and then not compare it to everybody else's. Because that's the main thing I think
Flow
people
state.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people have a hard time with art because they're always like, "Oh, I'm not good at it." And it's like, well,
It's all subjective.
yes, exactly. You're comparing that to something else, something that you think is good. which it can be, but that doesn't mean what you're doing isn't.
Mm.
Right.
And then also understanding the like limitations of skill, because I myself have a lot of limitations when it comes to skills. There's techniques that I don't know, and so I can't necessarily like do the thing that I want to do in the way that I want it to until I learn that skill. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, you're naturally an artist, and it's like, no, you have to like practice. You have to like, you know, have your own craft and like figure out what the rules are so you can like change them. Everything's a tool. You know, you learn like this and then this, and you can put it all together.
And earlier you were talking about how artists like to talk about big ideas and just talk about the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more we enhance our world views, the more that creative comes to us naturally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's people don't know what they don't know, right? So like whenever you are in a situation where you aren't exposed to any other ideas or any type of like environments or even like colors, like I remember like being up here, not last November because I wasn't able to, but the November before, I was, you know, we were in Syracuse and it's all dark and it's starting to, you know, snow and whatever, so we went to go visit my family in Belize, and I like would forget how vibrant and how like those colors like affect my psyche, you know, like seeing like the blues and the flowers and the fruits and like all those things, like how just being around like other places can even like open like your creativity. Like to me, I was like, oh, I feel so much more inspired now, you know, seeing more stuff.
It's very interesting you say that, because I just think about, even for example, like people who are underprivileged and like how they get into the creative world.
Absolutely.
And think about like growing up in a place like Syracuse or Albany, these just very concrete, gray, dark places. How do you get inspiration from that, you know?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. That's one thing, because I grew up military, so I moved around a lot of my life. And even though I didn't have like a normal upbringing that way, like, you know, moved every couple years, so I didn't have like long-term friends, or I lived on base, which is very like very structured, you know, and, you know, I went to DOD school, so we had like uniforms, and like self-expression wasn't really like a huge thing. I remember when my dad was deployed, we had these things called FRG meetings, so Family Readiness Group is what it is. And they would separate like the moms over here and the kids over here, and they would talk to us about what to expect with our dad being deployed. And it's not like any of them knew, right? Because it was all very new. And I remember they told me and my sisters, we were going to do a video to send over to Iraq. And we weren't allowed to tell our dads that we were sad or cry or make them feel bad for being over. Like, don't tell them about if, you know, mom's crying. Don't tell them if, like, you're sad, because your dad needs to focus on what he's doing and not on you. So you have to be strong for your family. And that kind of situation really like affected me growing up.
Definitely, even as an artist, you know.
That's a lot to ask.
For a child.
Yeah.
I was like in what, 4th grade when my dad first deployed. And I remember my dad's last deployment was in Afghanistan, and it was a really bad deployment. My dad got shot multiple times, and my dad has 3 Purple Hearts, so he got shot twice when he was in his last deployment, and shrapneled. And I remember writing him like an email. It was like raining outside and it was storming, and my dad and I used to always like sit outside and like listen to the storm, and I was so sad. I was so depressed. And I wrote him like an email being like, Dad, I miss you so much. Like, it's raining outside and I just feel like crying. And, you know, I was just like really sad, but I wanted him to know how much I missed him, right? I sent it and I felt immediately guilty. Immediately.
Like, damn, I'm not supposed to do that.
Like, you know, my dad might now feel bad, you know, might feel like, you know, we're struggling here, which we were. We really were, because we moved up here and we had nobody. So it's like me, my mom, my 2 sisters in a super racist town, and my dad was gone. So it was so hard. But I felt so bad. And then that was it. I felt bad. He responded and told me, you know, that he loved me and like everything, and it was fine. But even then, I was just like, oh, I didn't have to tell him all of that because I was told not to. But now looking back, like that was healthy for me to do. You know, that was like, I needed to tell him that. So.
Wow. I didn't even know that they did that. That's really crazy.
Girl,
like I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Living on base and like growing up military is so different, like, than I think growing up in a civilian world.
What's the benefit of making the families live on base as opposed to like letting them live outside?
I think it's so we can relate, because everyone's new, nobody has family around, right? So, because I've been on both. I lived on base and I lived off base. And when I lived off base, I didn't have many friends, you know. I was always new. People would question me about my dad. So they'd be like, oh, your dad's in Iraq right now. What if he's dead? What if he just got shot and you didn't know? And like,
kids are ruthless.
And I'm in fourth grade, just moved to a new town, and these are, you know, what I'm getting. And I was like, how do I answer that? You know? And then finally my mom was like, we're moving on base, because like we can't handle this. We need help. Yeah. So we moved on base, and we lived in a duplex. So we had like, you know, our family, another family, and like all neighbors. We all live in duplexes, and all the houses look exactly the same. All the rooms are the same. Inspections all the same. All the walls had to be white. Like, it's you have like rules. Yeah. And but whenever, you know, husbands would get deployed or wives would get deployed, like those families were done together. So that's what family readiness groups were supposed to be, so we could all meet. And like, you know, we're on the same platoon, so like, you know, whatever. It never worked out, you know, but it was a safe place for us to grow up. For the couple years we were there, you know, wherever, because we had like a park and like a playground, and we could walk to school, and we had like a hospital on base. Like, we had no reason really to leave base. And it was easy, I think, easier for my mom that way, because then she could like talk to other women and talk to other like Latina women, because we had neighbors that were Latina women. So she, even now, some of her best friends, we met when we were on base. Wow. So I think that's the benefit of it.
So I was just going to say, how'd you end up in Syracuse after all that, like moving around?
My dad was stationed at Fort Drum.
Oh, okay.
And then we lived in a small little town up north, because my parents had this idea where they were like, oh, we're going to finally settle down the girls. We're going to live in a small town. We're going to have like the American dream. Did not work out that way at all. They last year moved to Florida. So my whole family's in Florida, and I'm here, which sucks.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, the place where we lived, they were like, the school I went to total was 500 kids.
Oh, wow.
My graduating class was like 50.
Wait, what town was it?
I don't want to say, because it was super bad. Lafargeville.
Lafargeville?
Yeah.
Is that near Fort Drum?
It's like
Never heard of it.
It's like between Watertown and Thousand Islands.
Okay.
It's tiny. It's a tiny
Yeah.
town. Tiny town. But like.
And you said it was bad just because of how small it was? Or?
No,
just like the town itself is.
Well, people rat poisoned our dogs there.
Oh, Jesus.
It was that kind of bad. It was like people like called my sisters and I half breeds. It was that kind of bad.
Oh, so that's what you're saying. That town was like very racist.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting, because I've never heard of that place before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's because it's the same families that have been there forever, you know? Like, it just, like...
So they immediately knew that you were a new person coming in?
Oh, yeah. When we moved in, so down south, schools get out before the schools here get out. So we moved in when our school got out in Georgia, and we moved up here, and so there's kids still going to school. And we were, like, outside, like, doing our own stuff, and so kids have, like, saw us. You know, we met a couple of them, and, like, our immediate neighbors were really nice to us. They helped out my family a lot. But, like, when we got to school, immediately, it was, like, I was different. I wore, like, hoop earrings, you know, like, I looked different. I dressed different, and it was so noticeable. I didn't know it was super noticeable until I got there. And then I remember people were, like, accusing me of all these things. Like, someone tried to say, like, that I was going to shank them. And I'm like, what? So the principal took me to the side, like, searched me, like, made me take off my shoes. And he was like, well, I don't know where you come from, but we don't do that stuff up here. And I was like, I don't do that stuff anyways. What do you mean? I got in trouble for it. I didn't do anything. Somebody literally got on a table and kicked my sister. She had dirt on her arm. And my sister told the teacher, and the teacher goes, oh, I didn't see it. And I'm like, she has a shoe print on her arm. Right. So I went up to the principal, and I was like, Myra has a shoe print on her arm because someone kicked her. And what do you, like...
You can't do anything about it. Right?
Like, these people are literally physically attacking my sister. And he was like, well, she could have done that herself. And I'm like, I don't feel like this is very fair. This is not a very fair place. Yeah.
What like age were you when you were there?
Junior year, senior year.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like a great place.
No.
I'm glad you got out of there.
I am. My youngest sister, my 2 younger sisters graduated from that school too. Now.
You graduated from there?
Mm-hmm. Okay. My younger sister had the hardest time because I'm very outspoken, and I was like, I'm only here for a couple years. I don't need any of you guys to like, like whatever. My younger sister is very timid, so she was picked on a lot. She was the one that like was like she was physically like attacked at the school. She was constantly bullied, and like I'm her sister. I can't really do much. Like if the school's not going to do anything, and my family got involved, and like all this stuff. My youngest sister was young enough where that age group didn't really care. So when she grew up with them, you know, she was able to spend years with them and was able to like make a friendship where none of that stuff mattered. Like no one called my youngest sister a half-breed, you know? So that's, again, exposing people to people and like knowing that there's not that difference. Like we grew up in a different place, but we're still humans, you know, like.
Why do you think that was, why the difference?
Because of that, because the age group was so young. They didn't have these already, or these like set views of other people yet. They saw my sister as like a new kid, a new friend.
Yeah. Like more excited to get to know her.
And like just more willing to like get to know them versus when I started, you know, I'm in high school, I'm a new girl. People, like, the girls did not, oh my gosh, they were not nice to me. And, like, the guys, like, you know, they were nice to me, but it was weird because I just felt like I was getting all this attention that I didn't want. And I don't know, it was a strange time until finally, I think, people started to realize that I don't care, guys. Like, I'm not here to do anything besides, like, go to school. But...
How do you think that childhood, growing up, traveling, and doing all this thing has shaped you the most in how you are today?
I think I have a very interesting perspective on things. My family is very eclectic. So, like, I grew up with a lot of different cultures. I have an aunt from India. You know, my mom's from Belize. My dad was born in Australia. My grandmother is, like, full Polish on his side. Like, I had a lot of different things in my life that I didn't even know was like interesting. Like I just knew them and they were, you know, fun to be around, and like the food was great, and you know, I knew like, oh, my aunt from the Philippines, like I knew all that, like that's where she was from, and like she's teaching me how to make lumpia, and but I didn't know that was like, I don't know, like a thing that other people aren't exposed to, right?
Lumpia is the egg rolls with a banana.
No, lumpia is they're kind of like spring rolls. So they have like a special kind of.
We grew up with Filipino food.
Yeah, they don't have to have the banana. They can be stuffed with a lot of different things. But yeah, it's like a special spring roll. They're delicious. Oh yeah, they're so good. Yeah.
Shout out to Drew.
Our friend's mom is from the Philippines, and she like constantly would make those.
Lumpia.
So good.
We devour them.
Yeah, my aunt, she would like make them so fast too. She was like, and, like make them super tight, and like, oh, they're so good. And like pancit, like I make pancit, and like I still make that. Like, you know, I grew up eating it, and but I think growing up military too, moving around, being around a lot of different opinions, a lot of different people. Like growing up military, there's a lot of propaganda. Like, that's straight out. People probably don't like that I say that, but, like, there is so much propaganda growing up military. I remember with the war, people were wearing, like, peace signs, and we were told that we shouldn't do that because that goes against the troops. Me, being a child, not understanding that not wanting war doesn't mean that you don't respect or, like, want good things for the soldiers. Like, they were like, you're either for us or you're against us, and that, like... was really strange versus like when I got out of that and I started living my own life and I started like thinking about things differently. I was like, you know, that's kind of brainwashy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, whenever there's one extreme and that's the only way,
yeah,
that's where things get kind of hairy.
And so there was a lot of that there, and I like so much like patriotism in itself, I guess, isn't like a bad thing, but there's been such a like saturation of patriotism becoming some type of like religion almost now, which is like weird to me. I mean, I grew up Army.
It's nationalism.
You know,
Like it becomes extreme at some point.
Exactly. And so like I feel like especially people of like my age that grew up like with the propaganda, like grew up. I remember my youngest sister told me that she was so scared when my dad was deployed because she thought the Taliban were gonna come to our house. And like she was scared of them because of the propaganda. Because, you know, they're telling you to be scared of the Taliban, be scared of Al Qaeda, be scared of things that like won't affect you like at all. But that type of stuff like terrifies children, and it affects how they grow up and think about things. It like that Islamophobia has like followed us for so long, and I think that a lot of kids that like grew up around the time that I did in those situations probably still feel the same way, which is crazy. But I think moving and like again meeting more people, you know, I'm able to like not think about those things in that light.
And be like, oh, so it's not normal to think like that all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not normal to other people, to make people others because you don't understand something.
Yeah. Lack of open-mindedness, I would say.
And I would say that my family's always been open-minded. Like for the most part, I think I grew up, you know, only sisters, and my dad taught us to do whatever we wanted. Like I grew up fishing, I grew up hunting, I grew up shooting, like I grew up playing in mud and dirt and bugs, and because my parents didn't want me to be one of those girls that are like, oh my god, a spider. I'm like, let's go take it outside. You know, I'll pick it up, take it outside. Same thing, I don't like to kill like bees or anything. I'll like open the window. And yet I have friends that will literally faint if they see a spider. Like my parents did not want that. Snakes, animals, anything. And so growing up, I was like, oh yeah, I can do all this stuff. I think even just in general, I think women, young women, when they realize what society thinks their roles are, it can become a really depressing place. And I didn't know there was that difference growing up. No idea. I had no idea that like girls didn't like to play in dirt until I got to school. And I'm like playing in dirt. And then they're like, wow, you're a weirdo. You know? So I think, yeah, my family has always been super open-minded. Super encouraging with the art, super encouraging with a lot of things, but definitely growing up military was weird.
Yeah, because you have that like creative side of you and the structure and discipline.
Yeah.
How is that like carried over into your regular like life and mindset?
I think that growing up, especially with who my father was, made it so I was very outspoken, and I was very much willing to fight for things that I think are right. And I think that part of it has really stuck growing up military, because that was one thing we always were like, all right, you know, there's a very right and a very wrong thing. And even though I can see gray area a lot, when I think something is wrong, like I really thought about it, and I really feel like if it's hurting someone, it's, you know, it's a bad thing. Versus like, you know, when I think something's right, like I think something is right. Like I think if it's good, it's a net good, it's a net good. I'm very flexible. Like if you give me new information about something, I'll change my mind. But I think that the aggression part of it really stuck with me for a while. That was something I worked very hard to kind of let go of, but I still have that, which I think kind of like drives a lot of my like advocacy for different things. And it's one of those things where it's like, if not me, then who kind of situations. Because you could either like be a bystander or you could like do something. And I think growing up military and growing up with kind of like that drive makes it so I do things, you know?
So right now, what would you say your biggest thing you're supporting as far as like social causes and advocacy goes?
I'm supporting I support a lot of things. So I think the main thing that I've been focusing on lately has obviously been like, social justice when it comes to racial inequality, mainly because like myself moving around and like, again, like the things I just told you, like racism and like, that kind of discrimination has not just affected me, but I've seen it so much. Like I have seen my friends be like just, berated even just behind their back because of who they are. The other thing is like sexism, like feminism is a huge thing because there's so many, I guess, like crosses there. And then there's so many things that affect me as a woman that I know not many people talk about anymore or don't talk about at all. Like female health issues, like reproductive issues, or like endometriosis or PMDD or any of those things. Like I try to be like, you know what, guys, I suffer from this, and I know a lot of you guys probably do too, but we never talk about it as like a society, as like a group.
Yeah, it's like, don't talk about that in front of other people.
And in front of men, like people be like, oh, you're talking about your period in front of a man. I'm like, I've been doing that forever. I don't care. Like I'm in high school, I'll be like, all right, anyone have a tampon? And my teacher be like, you don't talk about that. I was like, why? Are the boys not supposed to know I bleed?
Yeah.
And my teacher was like, don't say that. I was like, what? Bleeding? Like, it's just, it's something that happens to like half the population.
But that's how you destroy stigma, you know, just talking about it and being open. About it. Yeah.
And like not talk about it like
not being afraid to talk. Yeah.
I feel like especially in our culture, I'm not sure about other cultures really, but here there's so many taboo things that shouldn't be taboo, but like past generations were like, don't talk about that, even though it's like a very common thing that should be talked about, so people don't like, I don't know.
But then question why were they so averse to talking about it? So to like try to understand from their point of view.
Right. And like I've thought about that before too. Like even like the idea of modesty, right? People like, what about modesty? I'm like, what about it? And they're like, well, you're distracting. To who? To you? I think that's a you problem. That's not like a me problem. That's
like, sorry,
you
can't control yourself. Like, sorry, you're sexualizing
be like,
everything I do.
I'm strengthening your mindset.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like I'm testing you to see
I'm
if
standing
you have
here.
self-control.
If you can't help yourself then to look at me, then I don't know. You wear more clothes. You wear a blindfold. All right? Like, you do something about it, not me. But I think, I think it's big, and I had a conversation with my sister about this, is in order for you to be able to argue with the other side, you have to be able to defend it.
It's steel manning. Are you familiar with that term?
I've heard of it.
It's like trying to build up another person's argument that you are against, but just doing it so you can show how strong your argument is when you're going up against it.
You have to. Like, you have to understand what they're doing and, like, why they think that way. Like, you have to be able to defend it. Like, you should be able to LARP your like, other, like, the opposing opinion in order to have a good argument with them. Because if not, you get frustrated, you get like, you get flustered, you know.
Yeah, it becomes more just like a yelling match.
An emotional thing.
Like a constructive conversation about something.
Exactly. And more than having like an intellectual conversation, you are just going off of emotion. And that's how a lot of people get you, because they'll be like, now you're getting mad. And it's like, I'm getting mad because what you're saying is so frustrating.
Yeah.
But you have to be
But they won.
Yep.
Once they get you triggered.
Yeah.
And that's all they wanted to do.
What they're doing. Yeah. They know that. Like, if I can get you like upset and start yelling, like, it's in the bag.
Right. They can say something insensitive and be like, well, it's because you're sensitive. And it's like, but you're saying is insensitive on purpose. There's a difference. Just like the brutally honest thing, right?
Yeah.
You could be honest. Then you could be brutally honest. And honestly, like, there's sometimes you might need to be, but for the most part, like, I think people that hide behind the I'm just being honest, they're not doing it for the sake of honesty. They're doing it for the sake of brutality. Because there's so many ways you can say something that's unpleasant and still say it in a way where you're being sensitive to the other person.
Yeah, you feel like you're bigger than them. Like like, ha, I made you a lesser person because I said X, Y, and Z to you, and I got you upset about it too.
Right. Or even if it's like I've had people just like say something rude, just to say it. Like, it's not even to really get, I don't think, anything out of me necessarily, but they're like, I'm just a blunt person. And it's like, I think that's a communication flaw.
Yeah.
like,
that's not how you should talk to people.
Well, my friends don't care. It's like, okay, well, you know, you can stay with your friends then.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not your friend, so there's no disconnect.
Like, do you talk to your coworkers like that? Do you talk to your employer like that? Like, I don't know. I try to give everyone the same kind of like mutual respect. That's just, you respect me, I respect you, and that's it. There's no reason to just openly start like fighting someone or being disrespectful or like.
It's a bad look. Plus, it like that follows you. You know, like people now know that that's how you are, and if someone's like, yeah, so I met so and so the other day, it's always gonna be a them blah blah blah. You know, it's like, do you want to be that person?
Right.
I don't.
Right. And there's been people, because there's a lot of times where like, especially going to like shows or like even like my boyfriend shows, like I'll just sit there, like I've seen it already and like it's always fun, but sometimes I just want to chill out. I don't want to go and like say hi to everybody and like do the whole like thing. And then there's sometimes where people are like, what's wrong with your girlfriend? And it's like, I'm just chilling, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just chilling.
It's not an act, you know?
Yeah.
Just people always assume things like, oh, they're so standoffish, or that be like, well, consider you don't know what's going on in their head. So
I've had multiple people say to me, they'll be like, oh, well, I didn't expect you to like think that way, or for you to like, you know, be like whatever, so open. I'm like, why? You knew nothing of me before then.
Right.
All you did was look at me. So like, I know you mean that as like a compliment, like, oh, you're so much cooler than I thought you would be, but that means that you thought I'd be uncool, and I don't know how I feel about that.
It's like a human nature response, I think. I was like reading a study the other day, and it said like within literally half a second of you meeting someone, they've already like pre-established a judgment on you. And it's like so innate in us, you know?
Yeah.
So how do we work out of that?
It's hard. What I've done a lot, and I guess obviously not lately, but what I've tried to do, especially if I go to like places I've been before and then like I see a new person, I'll be like, oh, hi, I see you're new here. Like, I come here all the time. My name is Eliza.
Is that uncomfortable for you to do?
No, but it's something I have to like actually think about. Like, it's
I'm
something.
gonna go talk to this person.
Yeah, I have to like make a conscious decision to do it, because if not, I won't. I'll just sit there and like mind my own business. Like, I'll be polite, but you know, I kind of push myself to do that more. Same with like compliments. I don't give a lot of compliments. Compliments make me uncomfortable, but mainly I think it's because of I've been working like as a promo girl since I was like, I don't know, 18. And then even before that, it was just like I got a lot of harassment. So like compliments to me always kind of like triggered like an uncomfortable feeling for me. And so I always made it a point not to talk about people's physical appearance. In like subconsciously, I didn't even know it until like someone mentioned it to me. They're like, you don't ever compliment people like on like their looks. And I was like, because I don't like when people do it to me, I guess. I never had to think about it.
Do you still compliment them in like attributes?
I'll be like, you know, oh, that's really cool that you did that, or like, you know, I'm proud of you for this, or you know, like I compliment other things going on, but not like their physical appearance. But I feel like a lot of people feel valid whenever you compliment, you know, their physical appearance, which is cool, and I totally get it, but it's not something I think about. So I have to like think about it a little bit, and if I notice someone's outfit, I'll be like, oh, like your boots, or you know, something
that's within their control too. Because like
it shows,
we don't
like,
choose how we look.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, if you're complimenting someone on their physical attributes, you have to think, you're not the first person to say that. You're not saying anything that hasn't been said before.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, you know, it's like,
yes, this is my face.
You know, like any, you know, good-looking person has probably gotten the same compliment like 1,000 times. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. And I'm sure they're sick of hearing it. And it's like.
And I think on a deeper note too, it like causes people to become even more insecure too, because I said, you can't control it. So it's like as you start aging or whatever, that's something that you're trying to like hold on to, and you're like, oh shit, and you're like not focusing on stuff that is within your control, like
Right.
skills or like talents.
Yeah, 'cause, like, some
Absolutely.
people could be like used to getting those compliments, and then as they age,
They don't get it anymore.
They're like, oh, I gotta do something to secure that.
Yeah.
And then like
compliment
plastic surgery,
continuing.
Yeah,
blah blah blah.
that's definitely true. Even like for me, I'm 28, and people are like, "Oh, you don't look 28," and I'm like, "What does a 28-year-old look like?" First off,
Yeah, yeah.
like, what do you mean? And they're like, "Why? Like, what is it? Am I supposed to look like tired? Am I supposed?" Actually, I had one of my younger viewers write me, and they're like, kind of tired, kind of hating your life. I'm like, that's what you think a 28-year-old should look like?
We need to change society then.
Right? No, exactly. But yeah, it's like a weird thing to like
So weird.
people, or even like when it comes to my ethnicity, people will like assume right off the bat. They'll be like, "Oh, are you this or this?" And I'm like, first off, you could just ask.
What is your ethnicity?
So
I'm curious.
Nice.
my mom is from Belize, so she is
Okay.
Maya, like indigenous Maya, and then my dad, he is Polish, Irish, and German. He was born in Australia.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Makes sense why you have all these just open-mindedness in general about like how the world is.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, no discrimination there.
It's interesting. So I took my boyfriend for the first time to Belize, not this November, last November, and the people there, it's a developing nation, so it's very poor. My mother grew up super poor, sleeping on the ground, they like collect rainwater, and even we went to go visit the plot of land where like my family still has like a farm. And you could see like the old traditional houses made with like palm leaves and like that kind of stuff, and like the outdoor kitchens, and like, you have to go to the bush to get banana leaves, or to pick stuff. And it is such a vastly different experience to kind of like come from some place like this where you have everything, and then kind of go there and live like a local. And you can go to Belize and live on the resorts,
Yeah.
and they do that. And like my uncle lives in a place called Shai Bay, and it's a little Maya village, and part of it was all bought by Americans. And like now the locals, like natives, can't even walk down that street because the Americans bought the land. So if you walk down the street, they call the cops on you, like that that kind of situation.
Classic American.
That's and so like being open-minded to other people's like cultures like comes in to play a lot, I think, when you get to experience it, and you can't compare everything to the US. And I think Americans do that a lot. They'll be like, well, in America we have this, in the US we have this. Like,
it's like, no shit, you have way more than you probably need.
the same with even like flushing toilets. Like, you can't flush toilet paper in Belize. You have to throw it away because their infrastructure, like their sewage system, they don't do it. So you like you throw it away and they burn it, and that's how they get rid of it. But there's people like, I can't believe I had to throw my toilet paper away. I'm like, in the US, it's weird that you guys don't have bidets. So
Yeah, seriously.
That's a good point. I think we're privileged. Well, we are privileged, and we just like lose sight of those privileges.
Oh, I think again, people don't know what they don't know.
Well, yeah, if you're born into having literally everything plus more, because especially here, it's like everything's in excess.
Yeah.
Always.
And then we get used to that, and then we start complaining, and then it's like you forget what to be grateful about,
Right, and
it's like an active exercise to
yeah.
like gratitude,
Yeah, and that's one thing, because I grew up knowing my mom's upbringing, and we grew up poor too. Like, my mother was like pawning her rings to feed us. Like, I didn't know we were poor. I didn't know that was like a struggle for us, because my parents, I played outside a lot, and they tried their best to make us happy. And, we never went on vacation, and we never, did these things that all my friends did. I didn't understand it. But as I got older, I was like, oh, well, yeah, and like super grateful that my parents were able to work through that, and that they were able to provide and give me a happy childhood without anything. Like, instead of vacation, we'd go, hiking in the woods, instead of like, going, I don't know, anywhere. We would visit family instead. Like, that kind of thing.
And that builds the values that you have and what you carry out throughout your entire rest of your life.
It makes me super resourceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
That's the other thing. Like, I shouldn't speak for all Americans, but I feel like it's probably a common theme that a lot of people who are born in America, grow up here, and everything are not like they wouldn't know what to do if they were like by themselves in someone else's culture. They'd be like, oh my god,
Not at all.
like fish out of water kind of thing.
That's one thing that you hear a lot about. It's like Americans want to be catered to, always. And I remember I was in Belize, and I was like watching it. Like I was watching people, Americans, be rude to like locals just to do it. Like they were just telling them what to do and expecting things to be done. And we were at a hotel for one of the nights because we ended up getting stuck on Keycocker, which is a tiny little island. And so there was like one hotel there. We got a hotel there, and there was I think they were from like Missouri or something. And this guy was like a helicopter pilot, and he was like, they only gave us 2 towels and like complaining about it. I was like, do you realize how limited the resources are here? You got 2 towels. Then I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, it is just the entitlement of Americans. Whenever they go places, they don't want to, or I shouldn't say they, some of them don't want to enjoy the culture for what it is. They want to bring American culture there.
Yeah.
So like
I think
now,
that's an important distinction that you're making there.
yeah. So like now, like they love to be in a tropical place. They love to, be around, these very kind catering people, but they want pizza shops. They want burger places. They want,
like,
Picking and choosing.
all stuff.
if
And
you wanted
so,
that, you shouldn't have come here.
You
But
know?
that's not a thing.
but the land is so cheap there. Again, bought up by Europeans and Americans. So like you'll see this change when you go to the places where you can't find any local food anymore. And if you do have like people locally working, they're making hamburgers, they're making pizza, they're making these things that like, that's not what I came here for. I came here for like some salbutes, like things I grew up eating.
Yeah,
Makes sense why like resorts being created in these different countries, how like that's the main like source of tourism that Americans go to do, and then it drains the resources of the locations of these places,
And it pushes the locals out. They can't even afford to live.
it's like gentrification
Yes.
of the countries.
Yep.
Yeah, and like
Kind of thing.
it's so common. I've always heard this. People are like, "Oh, I'm going to Jamaica, this, that, the other thing," and I always hear the comment. Someone in the room will be like, "Oh, well, just know like you shouldn't leave the resort." And it's like, why? So you can actually like, I don't know, experience the fucking country.
Seriously.
Like what?
Yep.
What are you afraid of?
Yep.
Be like.
And it's like, yeah, sure, bad things could happen. Like that's
Yeah,
not like something
sure.
that doesn't happen. But if you're being like a responsible human and like you're being respectful to people and you're not like putting a huge target on your back,
Right.
it's less likely to happen.
If you're acting like entitled and like a fish out of water, you're gonna be like sticking out like a sore thumb to everyone.
Hire a guide.
Yeah.
Hire a local person. Support the local economy. Because that's like a huge thing where like, if you want to be around like the cultures, in Belize there's so many different cultures. Like you have like the Maya culture, and then you have like the Garifuna culture, which is the descendants of the slave trade. So they have like their whole like huge big Garifuna celebration in November where they like celebrate their culture. And, they have like their drums and their different types of food because their food's way different than the foods that, I grew up eating because I grew up eating, stuff from like more Maya stuff. Or like we have like a big population of Mennonites, which is like crazy. So you have like, all these different people and they're all like commingling and that's kind of like what it is. But when you go, you can see so many things, so many different cultures and so many if you just go out of the resort.
Yeah.
And that's a risk.
It's just
Yeah.
so
You know?
ironic to me. I'm
Not
like,
really,
so
but
you're just going south. Like, why didn't you just go to like Miami if you wanted to go to a beach? Like, what's the difference if you're just gonna sit?
It's
in this
cheaper.
One little pot. Oh, okay. That's fair.
It's cheaper.
Go somewhere that's not in America.
So after graduation from Lafargeville, did you go on this like world traveling expedition
I
to
wish.
experience all these cultures?
No, I mean, like, I grew up with a lot of culture. But what I did after I got out of school, so I went to high school and I also went to BOCES, so I became a cosmetologist. And then I went to college at JCC and then did hair on the side and then joined the cheerleading team there.
Just everything.
Yeah, and then, I spent 3 years there because I was going to try to do, like, 4 years for psychology. And in my third year, I was like, nah. Never mind. I don't want to do this anymore. I felt like I was sitting with my substance abuse counseling teacher, and he said to me, if you want to do this type of work, one thing you have to accept is failure. He's like, you have to be able to sit down with somebody 5 years straight and they commit suicide tomorrow. And you have to be able to handle that, like, internally. And I was like, nope, I can't do that. I know that I can't do that.
People will fail you a lot.
He's like, you know, you have to,
It's like 10% success rate.
you know, you have to go to your own
Yeah.
counselors. You know, you have to, like, you know, take care of your mental health too, as, like, you know, a counselor and that kind of thing. And I understood that, but I thought to myself, like, I just can't lose somebody like that. I just can't. So instead, I decided to move to Albany and go to school for healing arts instead. So
More
I
like
did
preventative.
more like massage therapy, energy work. I got certified in therapeutic art. Lots of stuff. A lot of medical massage stuff was so interesting. Did shiatsu, did trigger point therapy, did like craniosacral. My program was amazing. I even got to do cadaver lab, which was my favorite. I took it twice. Where like I got to poke at dead people. You know, that was
What school did you go to?
Center for Natural Wellness.
Okay.
And we partner up with Albany Med. So during their finals week, we do free massages for their students. And so in exchange, they do cadaver lab for us. So we get access to their stuff. So cool. Like holding like a human brain. Amazing. You think it's way bigger. Like we put way more like,
It's like
you know, it's like, oh, it's such a powerful thing. It is. But it's literally like this big. And I'm like, I'm holding it. And I'm like, whoa, like this is a brain.
So is it mostly skull then? Mostly bone?
Yeah, so you
thickness?
have, I mean, just even think about how big your head is. So, like, it's not really
it's
that
really
big, you know?
Put your hand around it, like,
Yeah, and
you
then,
think it's inside of that.
so then you have, like, your, you know, your tissue, and then you have, like, your skull, and then you have three more layers of, like, different tissues surrounding the skull and, like, liquid. Then, like, the brain. And
Oh, that's probably what takes up most of it too. The fluid, cerebrospinal.
so you then you have your brain, and then the brain stem, and, like, all the crazy stuff. Yeah.
Basically just walking brains. Because we're like, what, like 75% water anyways?
A lot. Like, you know, and then we got to, like, peel back the muscles and, like, see how, like, muscles work and pull on tendons and, you know, because that's what we're working on. We're working on soft tissue. So we were able to, like, look at all the different things, be able to name them, be able to, like, see where they are in the body, which is, like, very important, like, as, like, a massage therapist, because you had to visualize what you're touching, where it attaches, what it does, the way the muscle fibers work. That way you can stretch it the right way, or you can, you know, make sure that you're manipulating it the right way, or you can feel if it's abnormal, you know.
I was curious about that. Like when you're doing massage therapy on some, what is like the purpose of when you're like doing the massage? Like what's the goal that you're trying to, when you're are you changing the muscles? Like how does, basically like when you're doing massage therapy, how is that affecting the muscles?
There's so many different things massage therapy does when it comes to the human body, and it depends on your intention and what basically what you're doing. Like if I want to stretch a muscle, I can stretch it. Like I can pin and stretch it. I can, you know, stretch it with like your assistance. If I want to relax a muscle, there's different strokes to relax a muscle. If I want to stimulate a muscle, there's different strokes to stimulate the muscle. So it depends on what your goal is. You can help bring blood to a place. You can also drain fluids from a place. So
it's more than just like
yeah. Oh yeah.
punching
Oh my
pride.
gosh. The program that I took, like I did my internship at hospice, so I was doing massage at hospice, and then I joined the Iron Hands massage team for Ironman. So I was working on like athletes. Those two completely different types of massage, you know, like one is like gentle, like energy work, like just fluid moving. The other one like is a lot of kind of like trying to get these muscles to relax, you know.
Yeah,
Very
I'm sure.
tight, like muscles and stuff.
And like having to work with like real time injuries, like acute injuries, like, you know, trying to make sure that you're like doing the right thing so you're not affecting that, or, you know, lots of stuff.
So is this what you're doing full time right now?
No, right now I am not doing anything.
Because of COVID? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been streaming. That's basically what I've been doing.
Well, you said you have a class too, right? For a middle school?
I was teaching, at Huntington for their creative arts program. And so I was doing that, but COVID, so they don't need the program right now.
Not even over the video chat anymore.
We were going to. Like, that was like, every month it was October. They're like, we're going to start in October. And I'm like, yes. And then they were like, yeah, we'll get back to you. And then, like, November.
Like loss of funding or something.
Well, so that's the thing. If they do our program, they get funding.
Oh.
And it's a grant to do our program because it also does, like, they paired it up. I know last year they paired it up with the food program. So they got the grant. They had to, like, feed the kids. And we were able to, like, you know, do the whole program. But right now, they keep saying, well, we want the grant, but we don't know how we're going to do this all because it's not a academic class. It's an enrichment. So it's not needed.
Okay.
It's not like an essential class.
It's like how the art classes are the first to go and they cut
it's
funding.
so backwards. Because I feel like music and arts is
essential.
If not more important than the other stuff.
Especially nowadays too. Just because there's like more opportunity to pursue art and music.
Learning like
and
science, math, English, social studies, like those are like the main. They're so rigid, and there's no room for individuality in those. It's just cut and dry. This is how it is. You need to learn this, pass this test, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, like, music and arts is like, you can actually be who you want to be and figure out who you are.
Right. And that was one of the main goals of my class in particular when I did my interview and I told them, like, what type of class I wanted to do. I basically said that. I was like, especially city kids, they need some type of outlet. They need to learn self-expression. You know, they don't get to play outside all year round. Like, they have to play inside, you know, in the winter. You know, they don't get a lot of the same, you know, anything. Like, they don't have a lot of, it's underfunded. They don't have a lot of the same arts, you know, as maybe some of the schools outside, you know, and music, just like activities, exposure to like the world. I know, obviously, like, everyone's trying, but like at this point, it's just like they don't have it. So when I jumped in, I was like, that's what I want. I want to give them free reign of how my class goes. So what I ended up doing is, like, I wrote my lesson plans for, like, okay, we're going to be doing individual projects. Basically, what I did is I let my students, I would teach them technique, and then I let them kind of decide what projects they want to do. So, like, one will be playing with clay. The other one will be wanting to learn how to paint a landscape. The other one will, you know, be wanting to do a collage. And that's all in one class. So, like, I went through and individually, when people needed help, be like, okay, well, try this, you know. Okay, so you were learning how to blend a landscape. This is how you blend. Like, you know, try this. You got it? Like, so I worked with all of my students individually on the projects that they wanted to, on the art technique that they wanted to, so they would still have fun doing it. Versus, like, I remember when I was in art, it was like, well, you don't do it this way, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, guys, you can do it however you want. You can use whatever colors you want, and the stress that they got just for having the option was crazy to me. I, like, didn't, like, at first I was like, why are you guys so anxious about making your own choices? And then I realized they don't ever get this kind of freedom. So I had them do, like,
But once they do, it's, like, really empowering.
Yes. Once you see a kid, like, get that they get to do it however they want, like, it's so nice. Like, it's just like, yes, do it.
Because then they're hyped to be there, too.
I had one girl in my class that just did like this really cool, she got all these colors on, mixed it with white, got like a brush, and just decided to like twist the brush all over and like mix all the colors, and like came out with this really cool painting. I'm like, that's awesome. And she's like, yeah, look what I'm doing. And like, it was just so cool to see her just like experiment with things and then try it. Then I have other kids that, like, even choosing colors out, they're so unsure. I'll be like, whatever you want. They'll be like, we don't know. And I'm like, no, literally whatever you want. Well, I don't know. If you want to paint that whole canvas black, you can. I don't care. You want to paint it, you know, all the colors in the rainbow? Do it. Whatever. You want to make a sign? Like, there's some kids that, like, their creativity was just signage. Like, they would just, like, right, okay, if that's where you want to start, I'm not going to tell you, oh, no, that's not creative enough. Like,
yeah, but, again, subjective.
Yeah.
This is making me think, like, you had the insight of how having all of those choices and opportunities are giving them so much anxiety. Thinking of this on a societal level, it seems like we're inundated with a lot of opportunities out here in America, in our culture, with like social media and the ability to learn whatever you want on YouTube and delve into whatever craft and art form you want to. But it still seems like we're having pushback on a societal level, that people aren't like waking up to the fact. And I think maybe there's like some anxieties there, like preventing us from being like, whoa,
Absolutely.
like so much opportunity. And especially like even like during this time with COVID, like this is like such an opportunity to be able to just like focus on your craft or like figure out who you are.
Sure.
And we're just like focusing on all of the bad things and all the things that are like holding us back.
Yeah.
But there is so much, like Andy and I talk about this, and it's like there's so much good things that can come from this time of quarantine.
Oh, absolutely. And I know for me, I got stuck in a huge funk through all of this, mainly because I was so used to doing outside creative things, right? I was so used to doing events. I was so used to doing like live paintings or like taking inspiration from the things that I see and like the things that I'm experiencing. And so, you know, when it first started, I was like, yeah, I can get on my painting stuff and do all my stuff. I painted like 2 murals and was like all about it. And then it just slowly started getting to the point where I was like, I'm not doing anything, you know? And especially when things start getting like cold and gray outside and I can't go outside, that like I need that sunshine, tell ya.
Is it like that extroversion that you have that you need to get like inspiration outside of yourself a little bit?
Yeah, well, even if it's just me spending time by myself outside, it's just like the change of energy. And I think like being in like a stagnant energy, and even like my boyfriend, he's a musician and he spends hours every day writing, you know, with or playing with his music, whether he's like changing things in his recordings, whether he's writing, whether he's practicing, like he spends hours. But there was a time where he was like, you know, not creating as much or the way he would want to. And I know that was so frustrating for him. It was frustrating for both of us that we were like in this funk. And that was super just like, ugh.
Well, there is something with like having events and things going on in our community which give us as creatives a sense of purpose of like why we're doing this.
Yes.
Because not everyone is a creative. So when you get to showcase that stuff in person to people, you get the...
Yeah, it was this other thing where I think that like showcasing, just exchanging ideas, exchanging perspective, seeing somebody else's perspective. Like whenever you have art, when you do stuff, I think a lot of the times, like even for me, like, and this goes back to like why people might be scared to like go out and like do stuff, like put themselves out there to like learn something. It's because like sometimes I create stuff and I'm like, like, you know, is this done? Is this good enough? Is this gonna be like, you know, something that people are gonna like appreciate for what I did for it? I got in a huge kind of like feeling once where I was doing a lot of creative events and I got more support from people outside of my friend group versus like none of the people that I thought would be supportive like came out to any of my stuff. Like they didn't buy tickets to my events, they didn't share my events, they didn't come to my stuff. And I'm like, but you always call me to go to your stuff. And you always call me to tell me or ask me how I do things. But then when it comes to my stuff, nothing. And like that made me feel really down about my own creativity. Because I was like, do they not think that like, you know, I'm worth paying attention to? Or like, are they, and this again goes back to like my physical appearance stuff. Do they only want me around because they think I'm attractive? Like, you know, it just all these things in my head. And I was like, man, this sucks.
It's funny you say that because Kyle and I have had many conversations amongst ourselves or with people on this podcast, and it was the idea that, you know, being a creative is a very lonely process.
Yes.
And given that COVID's happening, that kind of amplifies it. But I think the biggest theme I've taken away is that you end up finding more support from people you never would have expected than the people you expect to
absolutely.
give you support.
And like for me, I don't have long-term friends. Like I don't have friends from like my childhood. You know, it's all like new people. It's all like always new people coming into my life. And for a while, I was either like a loner or I didn't want any friends, or B, I was like trying to like have people like me and go out of my way to like help them. And not because like I wanted anything in return. I wanted to show them that I was like a friend. Like, I really care about you. So like, I'm going to come to your stuff and like, you know, I'm going to support you because like I'm your friend. And I still do that. But I had to like take it off and like be like, you know what? I'm not going to take it personally that all these people aren't showing up for my stuff. Like, yeah, sometimes it sucks, especially when they're always being like, I have people still to this day be like, oh, I didn't know that you're an artist. And I was like,
Bruh, I've known you for like 10 years.
what? Like, what do you mean? I literally had someone once, I was doing a live painting event for Anthony, and inside, like, the description, they wrote me as, like, Eliza, the model, an unlikely creative. And I was like, I'm the artist for this live painting event. That is, like, I know he probably didn't mean it as, like, an insult, but I was like, you first put me out as a model, and that is not what I'm here to do. I'm here to paint. Right. Second off, what makes me an unlikely creative? What makes someone an unlikely like, anything?
Modeling is creative.
It is.
You know?
It like, really, like, it's, yeah.
What are you considering creative at that point?
You know, like, and I'm sitting here, like, reading that, and then they put, like, another artist's painting as, like, the advertisement. Like, another artist that did live painting as the advertisement, but then like with my
for your live painting.
I was like, I'm really insulted. And like I told Anthony, I was like, if you don't say something, I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna come off really like probably egotistical here, but like this is rude.
Yeah, wait, why would they ask you to that just makes no sense.
Well, so it was Anthony's event, so he asked to have live paintings.
And then someone else wrote the description for you,
like the booker of that event. But the thing is, this guy knows me and he knows Anthony, so it was weird. And I know he didn't mean anything by it, and Anthony did end up saying something, he ended up changing it, but I was like, that was just
the fact that it was even
that was like a weird I don't know. My brain doesn't work that way. Yeah. My brain, I love giving credit to people. I love it. I love, like...
Because we are all in this together.
Yeah. I love being like, check out these cool people, or check out this cool thing, because, like, I think that there is a lot of value in doing that. Like, in like, authentically kind of putting out things that you enjoy. Because if not, then who? Like, you know?
True. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, for example, even, like, with what we're doing, if it wasn't for, you know, someone that they knew who came on the podcast or whatever, they wouldn't even like take the chance to like watch a video on our YouTube page or like look through our Instagram. It's like, all right, like I can't force you to like what we're doing.
Right.
But
that is like the unsaid, like, beautiful thing about art is the connections that we make with other people.
Oh yeah.
And it does have this like powerful network effect, where it's like this domino effect of like, okay, I'm impacting one person, but it's not just that one person. It's them and their friends, their network. And it's like this expansive thing. And it's also an unconsciously impactive thing too. And it's just like, psychologically speaking, it's really fascinating.
This might be kind of like one-sided, but I feel that as an artist, as a creative in general, like, if you are a creative and you have a platform and you aren't using it to spread a message, whatever message it is, but a message that is a net positive, then you are using your platform irresponsibly. That is how I feel. Like, period. If you're an artist and you don't make like a statement on things that you believe in, then why are you doing art?
Yeah, what is your art speaking to?
Because it is like an introspective thing.
Yeah.
It's like you can use the art as a tool to like have some social impact or cause.
Exactly. And like
in the best artists are known because of like Frida, for instance, like during all that turmoil, cultural things going on in the revolution, it's like she was the forefront of that, like that face of that revolution, because her art spoke to all of those things that were happening on a sociological level.
I mean, that's what artists are known for. And so, but then there are people that like, know what looks good, so then they just make it because it looks good, which is like, I mean, that's a skill. That is, you know, what it is. But like, to me, like, even if that's what you're doing, like for yourself, like, do you not create anything for yourself? You know, like, do you not, I don't know, I can do like commissions. even when I do commissions though, like I put my own flair on it. I put my own like feeling into it. I try to get an understanding of what, you know, the people want. And for me, I don't do a lot of commissions. Like I don't do like, if people wanted me to paint like a sign, I don't necessarily do that because I don't have that creative freedom. To me, if you're going to hire an artist to do something custom for you, you trust that artist to like do that thing like, in their way.
You're hitting me up because you like what I've made. So when you say I want something, you should assume you're going to get something similar to what I make.
Right, exactly.
Not like, I want these specific, like, things that are not something you've ever made before.
Right.
And hope that you're just going to do it.
I've had that. I've had, like, private events where they want me to do, like, they want me to teach a painting, but they want me to do a custom painting. Okay, cool. You chose, like, they specifically requested me. I do a certain type of painting. Like, you know, I have my own certain style. You know, Claire might have her own style, and, you know, Jade might have her own style. So my own style, this is what I do. I give it to the person. I'm like, okay, this is my idea. This is my design idea. Here's 3 of them. They'll be like, no. Can you just do this? It's like something. Why didn't you just tell me that's what you wanted? I wouldn't have put all this time into doing these designs. I wouldn't have like whatever. If you just wanted like, you know, a picture and some words.
I think that's a disconnect when it comes to like a businessman to an artist.
Yes.
Is that they just see, oh, you're an artist, you can do all this different stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's
expression, self-expression. Let me do that.
I think well, I shouldn't say like people are not creative because I think everyone has creativity one way or the other. But people who don't necessarily stroke their creativity on a daily basis don't understand how nuanced art is in any form.
Yes.
And they're just like, oh, you make songs, you can make this song for me. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Right. Oh, you write songs, so you can write this country song for me, even though you're like a hip-hop artist. Right.
Like,
I mean, maybe I can.
It's like, sometimes I make country songs to get myself out of the comfort zone.
And the same with like the paintings. Like, yeah, maybe I can do that. Do I want to though?
Right.
Like, and so you have to like weigh those things out where it's like, if this is something that like, I don't want to do because it's not my style. It might be easy, but like, I don't want my name on it. Like, I might not take the gig because like, if I'm going to be put out there as an artist, I want it to represent me. I want it to represent what I can do and like what I want to do. And I think a lot of people, especially like an older generation, they don't understand that part of it. It's all like, well, you should just be grateful for these things. And it's like, no. The reason it's not that I'm not grateful for like the connection. It just means that I know where I'm going with it. And that's not the direction that I want to go. And even when it comes to like jobs, my mom's always like, you know, Lisa, maybe you should like get like a normal like 9-to-5 job, get healthcare, get whatever. And I'm like, Mom, or, you know, I could sell my soul. That would, you want me to do that? I'm like, I would be miserable working at an office. I know I would be. I don't like it. And she's, oh, but then you have this, you don't have to worry about this. I'm like, yes, but then I would have to worry about myself. Like, you're
selling one thing for the other.
Yeah. And like,
it's the beautiful thing about self-awareness is you know what you want to do.
Yeah. And like, that's not like, I know that I am not focused. Like, I can't do office work. I just can't. I know I can't. Like, if I tried really hard, could I make a living off of it? Sure. You know, I could force myself.
And you're degrading your potential in the things that you do love doing.
Yeah. Like, sure, I could do that. I don't want to. And I'm choosing not to. And again, a lot of like, I think an older generation, they're like, well, you have to move where the work is, or you have to, you know, do this for the work. And it's like, well, what is the work really benefiting anybody at this point? Like, people can't even survive off of full-time work. So why should I sit there and, you know, put all this time and energy and like emotional and mental, like, you know, hardship into a job that I don't want to do and still be struggling? And
you're replaceable in a sense of like, if you get fired or quit, so they'll just have someone new come on board in a week.
Yeah. And the thing is like, and there's no problem with people that do choose to do that work. Like, there's no issue with it. It's just, I know myself, I wouldn't be happy. I just wouldn't be. And I would rather be happy.
As you should.
As I think most people should. Like, that's, and again, the same thing where they're like, oh, well, you know, you guys say you're so, you know, underprivileged or you're poor or whatever, but you have an iPhone. Like, what about that? And it's like, do you understand that having connection to the outside world is important? Like, if you didn't have like a smartphone today, it's much harder to find a job, to even get accepted for a job, because you don't have access to, like, you know, online stuff, or with your car. If you don't have a car, it's like, well, do you have reliable transportation? No. Well, guess what? Now you don't have a job. So it's like these people who, you know, have iPhones that you say, oh my gosh, shouldn't. It's like, people need to survive, and like the little luxuries that they do have doesn't mean that they're not struggling.
Right.
Like,
it's just they're getting, that is an essential in today's
and
society.
people just like, well, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Yes, and that's part of it.
So one of your big goals, you said, was you want to be happy. So how do you define happiness? It's a big question. But...
Yeah, it is a big question. I don't know. I think, like, I was asked for Christmas what I wanted, and I said financial stability. Because I think, like, that's a huge part of being happy, is being comfortable, regardless of whether you're, you know, living in luxury or you're not. It's just that, like, being comfortable, like having a good support system, like doing something that you want to be doing. But then, like, again, being comfortable. So not having to, like, necessarily worry about, oh, can I pay my car this month? You know, like, oh, do I have to, like, you know, sell my shoes so I can, like, you know, pay for rent this month? Like, I think, like, honestly, that part of it would make me really happy. Being around family, being around open-minded people, like people willing to, like, be creative, or like have conversations, or like music and like community, I think would make me very happy.
And do you feel like there's anything that's lacking in your life that you're trying to strive for?
Oh, gosh.
When it comes to that equation?
Gosh. Yeah, a lot of it. I think, especially with COVID, I think a lot of people are, I saw this thing where it says, we're not all on the same boat, we're in the same storm. Some of us have yachts and some of us are drowning. And I think that that's, like, a thing, because, like, for me, I probably have a boat, you know? I'm not necessarily drowning, but, like, especially now, like, financial stability, that is, you know, like, who knows what that.
Hard to come by nowadays.
Yeah. You know, my family's not around. You know, you can't really spend time with friends. So that kind of stuff has really bothered me. Health issues, like, I have health issues, and, like, the winter does not help. And so, like, those things are very, like, wintertime is very tough for me. Summertime is much better. But I think, like, in my life, definitely finding, like, my tribe, like, finding my people have been helpful. That is definitely something that I'm definitely striving to find more of. And I think that COVID, besides the fact that you can't see your friends, but, you know, you guys are kind of touching on, is the fact that more people are able to, some of them at least, express themselves in a way where you didn't even realize you had these things in common with them, or you didn't realize that they, you know, were doing these cool things. Now you do, and now you have something to talk about. I found so many cool, just, like, different artists and, like, different people to talk to from around the world streaming. You know, because, like, they come and check out my chat. They, you know, talk to me a little bit. I'm like, oh, let me check out your stuff. I check out their stuff. And now I, like, you know, have friends all over that do coolest things. And so online, honestly, I've been able to find so many people to talk to and so many people to exchange things with. And although it doesn't make up for, like, you know, in-person kind of stuff, that's been really helpful. Yeah,
it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I didn't have that before, you know. I, like, always did online stuff, but I never, like, really, like, dove into the community until, like, you know, COVID.
And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but, like, what aspects of the community that you kind of gravitate towards? Like, what types of people would you say? People
that also are people, you know? Like, I think I gravitate towards people that want to make a difference. I'm constantly, like, I'll jump on board in, like, different art projects, different festivals, different things where, like, I can be involved in creating something, in creating, like, whether it's an atmosphere for creatives or whether it's, like, an invitation for other people to be creative. Like, there's, you know, there's two different things. There's a creative community, which sometimes I think can be very intimidating to other people. And then, you know, you can just throw, like, invitations out there and be like, hey, come do these really cool things and meet all these really cool people. And that's why I love festivals, you know?
True, yeah.
Which is funny. I just like remember I want to talk about this. So I think like the first time I ever saw you was at a lovely time, like
Oh, when's you?
probably the first year it happened, I think, and then the second time you were like hooping and stuff, and I was just like, oh wow, like
Oh man, what did you see the first year?
I don't even remember the first year. I feel like it feels like
Forever ago.
to
I
me.
know.
But like the second year, like you know when like there was a lot more of that type of stuff happening, I was like, this is awesome. Like there needs to be more of this stuff at all festivals because it's something people aren't used to, and it maybe puts them in a uncomfortable, like it's not in their comfort zone to like be like actually interested in watching someone hoop with fire on it, you know, shit like that.
Yeah.
When did you get into that?
Oh, I got into that. So I was in an extremely abusive relationship my last year in college. And even like so that relationship was like I was in that relationship for 3 years. And during that time, I was going to school for healing arts. And I was learning a lot about myself while also dealing with like all this trauma. And it was very difficult. And I started by just asking a hula hooper, hey, can you show me how to do that? And then she was like, yeah, let's meet up on Saturday. And I was like, hell yeah, like, let's do it. And I loved hula hooping when I was younger, so I picked it up super fast. And then I just dedicated a whole summer to doing it. And then I met the people from Fire Magic. They're up north. And we started talking, and she did like these flow days at the park where she would like bring all her flow art stuff and be like, anyone want to play? Like, anyone want to jam? And so I started going to that. She showed me a couple things, and then she told me about this festival. And I was like, oh, I've never been to a festival before. And she's like, it's a 5-day festival. So my first festival was a 5-day festival. It was amazing. It was called Return to Roots, and they no longer do it, unfortunately. But it was a flow arts festival. So it was for people who wanted to do like hooping, wanted to do like fire performances, juggling, poi, clownery, staff, stilts.
That's awesome.
Like acro yoga, and you could take workshops in all of them. And so like I went, so during the day, you could take workshops in anything. And I was like, oh my God. So I learned like aerial silks, and I learned how to hoop on my feet, and and then I saw fire hooping, and I was like, oh man, I want to learn that. And so then I got a fire hoop, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So I had to like learn safety, learn about fuel, learn about like all that stuff. And then I just started doing it. And then in Albany, they have, I think it's Tuesdays now, huge. If you're ever there, amazing. They have huge flow jams where people come with their LED and their fire. 30 people easily, 40 people fire dancing. People like blowing fire, eating fire, people doing poi, rope dart, all the stuff. So cool. Everyone's there is, professional, so they have like safety. Everybody knows like whatever.
Nice.
Amazing. And whenever you start meeting people in that community, you start learning new techniques. You start picking up new props. You start, all that stuff. And we had a little one here in Syracuse I used to do, where I actually would drive from Albany here to help here do it. But all those people kind of left. So we don't really have much of it. Over the summer, we were trying to do it more. So I had like a couple people show up. We would like fire stuff. I like taught a couple people how to eat fire, like, whatever. But, when it's warmer, maybe we'll do it more. But that's how I got into fire dancing.
That's awesome.
I just decided.
Yeah.
I just was like, I'm going to do it.
And so now when it comes to like all your creative endeavors, was it always something as simple as that, just doing it? So like growing up, you said that you were creative, correct? And you were doing stuff out in nature and like drawing, painting. So like, was there like a time that you can remember where you had that shift towards creativity, or was it always in your life?
It was always in my life. I think especially my mom, always had to find creative ways for us to have fun as children because we couldn't do much other things. So she'd like build piñatas, or she would like build us forts and like, tape all the stuff together so they looked like rockets, or she would make all of our costumes, and they were so good. She would make like, my favorite one was pre-K, where she made me Belle from Sleeping Beauty, and she made me like this yellow dress with like little gloves. And she always went out for whatever I needed creatively wise. She would go all out for it because she loved doing it. My dad's also very creative, but he was gone a lot. So it was like a lot of like my mom just doing stuff. She came to help me out because I'm actually having surgery tomorrow. So she came to help me out. She's at my house right now. And as soon as she walked in, she was like, all right, well, we can build a loft here. And, you know, because she always had to. My dad was gone. She had to take over, repair everything. So she did. Literally, me, my boyfriend, and her, we built like a little loft.
Cool.
And like she's like redoing my bathroom. She's like, we're going to help you get all this stuff up here. And you need shelves. And I'm like, oh, man. But my mom definitely was a huge influence in that. My whole life, I didn't even know it was creative. I was just doing stuff for fun.
It was normal too.
Yeah, like I would make like little potions like with different flowers, or like I would like, you know, design things. I had no idea. And then as I got in school, I would always color with the back end of the crayon, not the pointing end. And so I'd always color with the back end because I could get the lines real close. And my teachers told me that was wrong, that I had to color with the pointy end. And I'd bring it home, and my mother would be like, why are your colorings like this and not like what you do at home? And I was like, well, because the teachers told me I was wrong. And my mother was like, that's why? If you were doing it fine before. But then we got really self-conscious with that kind of stuff because people were looking at me, you know, and it was first grade.
Wrong thing
yeah,
to do,
and like
know?
in first grade is when it got real bad because my teacher, I don't know, my teacher didn't not like me. She like locked me in a room and like left me there. I like never got recess. I thought I was in trouble all the time, and my mother would complain and be like, why can't my daughter read? And then she'd be like, she's fine. My mom would be like, why can't she do the work that you're sending her home for? It was because I wasn't being taught. And I got so self-conscious with that kind of stuff because like I always felt like I was in trouble. I always felt like whatever I was doing was wrong. And when I got to second grade, my teacher realized that I was behind in a lot of stuff, but I could do art. So she spent every day after school teaching me to read, teaching me how to do math, teaching me everything, and then allowing me to like create, like, you know, as I learned, because that's how I learned. After that, I just did art. Like I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was like, when I got to middle school, I was like an advanced art, and whenever I got to high school, I like would skip class just to go to the art class and do stuff.
So early on, you had pretty good awareness of yourself.
Well, at least I thought I did. And then, like, again, first grade, I was like, I don't know. What about me?
It's what other people put in us, you know, that create the insecurities.
Yeah, I didn't know what, like, anxiety was until then. Like, you know, and I remember the first time, like, I felt like the room was, like, spinning, and I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know until, like, an adult that I was, like, feeling anxiety when I was a child. Because I didn't know how to explain that. Like, how do you explain that?
It's hard to, as an adult, to explain anxiety.
Yeah.
Your story is so, like, motivating, though. I feel like I hope someone listening to this gets something out of this. Like, the fact that you literally had teachers in multiple age ranges of your life literally hold you back from developing.
It's crazy.
And you still managed to, like, say it basically without saying, like, fuck all y'all, I'm still gonna do what I want to do and be successful at it.
You know,
it's really awesome.
I guess I never thought about it like that. I was just like, yeah, these people sucked.
Yeah.
You know,
but I feel like there's so many people who have that happen to them and they just carry that with them and it becomes who they are.
Yes.
Instead of, like, that's not you, that's because someone else did that and you can be something else.
It's trauma response.
Yeah.
And that was something I had to work really hard on. Even, you know, again, like growing up military, like having to kind of let go of that, like, inability to be emotional. Like I was just angry. Like I was either like happy or I was like just angry. Like there was no, like, you know, anything there. And then even just like, I don't know. It's a hard thing. Like I had to work on, like, after my abusive relationship and after, like, so I had that, which was awful. And like dealing with like sexual trauma, dealing with like physical, like mental kind of like trauma, and then going and like being like, oh, you know what, I'll just drink. And then that obviously didn't work out. And so, like, having to take that back and being like, all right, these are my experiences, and now I can do something with them, has been a huge motivator in, like, my advocacy towards, like, you know, women's issues. Because I've been, like, admin to, like, a women's group where all these, like, women will talk about people that have harmed them, their stories, and, like, what they're feeling in the moment or what they're feeling, like, now, even, like, after. And, like, I can see myself there. I can see myself in those kind of places. And when I was in healing arts, one of my teachers, she was like, oh God, she said to me, your greatest wounds become your greatest gifts, because at the end of the day, we're all teachers. And that really spoke to me because, like, I was dealing with so much at that time. And I was like, okay, so there has to be something that comes from this. And what I've noticed is now, even though, like, I'm young, I'm 28, but there are so many of my friends that are, like, 20, 21, 22, like, younger, like my sister's ages, that I talk to now about things that they're experiencing at that age that I've been through. I've been through something similar, you know, and that I understand that they're angry and I understand all this stuff, but I'm able to be now, like, the person that I needed when I was that age and I didn't have that person. And I can give resources and I can give, like, kind of, like, if they're like struggling with something, I can say, you know, I don't know exactly how you're feeling, but what helped me is, you know, this or that, or, you know, give a different perspective on different actions. I've had friends be like, I feel like I just need to, like, go to his house and, like, slash his tires. And I was like, trust me.
Don't do that.
Been there, done that.
Trust me. That's not a good choice. You know, like,
what was one of the biggest things that helped you during those phases of, like, healing from traumas?
Feeling it. Like, and talking about it.
Like, diving into it.
Yeah, like being like, this happened to me. And that's, I think a lot of people get annoyed with that stage. It's a stage of, like, accepting it, especially when it comes to, like, a situation that you weren't able to talk about when it was happening, or you felt shame about it when it was happening. Now you want people to, like, know that this thing happened and, like, it wasn't okay. Like, you want people to know, like, that, like, this is a bad thing, and that you can do something, or you want to do something, or you're not that, like, you know, there's this stage where people kind of, I guess, like, they rebel against that. And I think that once you get past that was something that, like, I had to do. Like, I had to tell my mom, you know, I had to, like, tell my dad. I had to be angry about it. I had to let myself be mad. And I had to process what about it made me mad. And I had to then own that. So then I had to relearn, like, ownership of my body and be like, it's my body before anybody else's. And, like, really stick to it. And the same when, like, that's why I have such strong boundaries when I speak to people. It's because I speak to be understood. And then if you're saying something that I'm understanding in a way that makes me uncomfortable, I'll ask you, what do you mean by that? Or, you know what? I don't like what you just said. I think it's ignorant. Like, because I feel like that definitely pushes me to be that person where, like, again, if not me, then who? If this guy is going to sit here and, like, harass me at a bar, I could either, like, ha ha ha, like, laugh and, like, you know, ignore them, or, like, you know, say, oh no, I have a boyfriend. I don't even say that. Like, if somebody comes up to me and they're harassing me, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I think you're harassing me, please leave. A lot of people aren't used to that. Guys get so angry with me, and they'll be like, oh, what, do you have a boyfriend? I'm like, does it matter? I'm not interested. Yes, I have a boyfriend, but I'm not going to use it to, like, you should respect me for my word. You should respect me because I said no. I don't need to give you a reason.
And that gives you power in that situation, whereas like laughing it off or, like, ignoring it just kind of makes that person who's harassing you want to do it more, because it's like, oh, they're not telling me to fuck off, so I guess even if they know
they're making me uncomfortable, like, even if they, like, I've seen guys visibly make women uncomfortable, but they're oh no, you know, I'm just gonna go over here. No, just turn to him and say, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Why? The other thing is, other people will hear it.
Yeah. Now it's a thing. And that's one thing, like, I tell so many girls this, because a lot of times they'll be like, oh, you know, haha, like,
I have a boyfriend. I don't want to make them feel bad. They're making you feel bad.
Why are you catering to them?
Right.
And it's societal like propaganda in their minds that have been like told by society to them to just like stay silent.
And because it's safer. Because then
even though it's not.
Yeah, I've had my mom, because I've said so. My mom's like, what if that guy like hits you? I'm like, then he's going to jail.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Mom, but he's not going to sit here and harass me. That's for sure. Like, I'm not going to let him do that. Because, again, working promos, you know, being, like, a model for all this stuff, like, the amount of sexual harassment I got was crazy. And even, like, so one thing, I work for MMA, so I do, like, all, like, the Gladius, I do VFC. I used to do Cage Wars, but I left Albany, so I don't do that anymore. And I had, my boss there, he knows me. I used to train jiu-jitsu with his son, and he's just like, I know you're good because I know that you're going to tell people to, like, go away and, like, back off. Like, he gives me full free, like, you know, to do that. But there's some places where, like, if someone's harassing you and you tell your management, they're going to say, well, you know,
that's what you signed up for.
Suck it up, you know. That's the client. You can't say anything to them. And I'm not going to do that. So I had a guy. It was the fighter's father, like, for one of the fights. I was walking to go backstage to change, and I walk past this guy, and he just, like, cups my ass. And I was like, I turn around, and I look around to see who it was, and it's this guy. And I walked after him, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I was like, I'm sorry, did you just grab my ass? Like, in front of everybody. And he was like, oh, and I was like, because it felt like you did. He's like, well, I didn't mean to. I was like, okay, well, I'm telling you, it felt like you did. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't do that. And then after that, I had a couple fighters come up to me. They're like, we saw it, you know, we saw what he did. So, like, if you need to tell someone, I'm like, you guys saw it. You didn't have my back when I confronted him. You didn't, like, say anything
like,
to him.
You did, you know.
You know, like, you didn't, like, stop him. Like, I'm fine. I did it myself. Like, I mean, I appreciate you being like, well, if you need an alibi, I mean, sure. Like, that's nice of you to ask, but, like, bystanders. You know, and you know, whatever. Apparently, like, the excuse was Dad was in the parking lot drinking and he was drunk. And I'm like, that, I don't care.
It's like that boys being boys type mentality.
Yeah, I don't care.
Thrown around.
I don't care who's the father, who the son is. I'm not going to, like.
Yeah, someone's got to tell people that you can't do that shit.
Like,
I don't care who you are.
Big scary man. What is he going to do to me? He could do anything he wanted. But what is he going to do in front of all these people? Nothing. But now that little girl who saw me say something to him might say something, you know, before or after, like, anything happens to her. Because that's, you can't just, I don't know, like, I feel, again, if not me, then who? If I don't do the things to make the changes that I want to see, then who is going to do it?
It's true. And so many people think, well, my voice by itself isn't going to do shit, so why bother?
Yeah. People be like, oh, she's a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, if me telling you not to harass me makes me a bitch, that's fine.
Yeah, but if it's like a guy standing up for themselves because someone's harassing them or whatever, it's like, oh, wow, like, look at them being masculine and, like, doing what a guy should do. It's so stupid. It's like, why is there a double standard for, like, sticking up for yourself?
You know, I shared this thing where they were like, was she really a bitch? Or were you just programmed to think that women should always be polite and happy?
Even though, like, women have to go through so many more stressors in life than men do. It's like, yeah, you gotta do it with a smile. What the fuck?
I hate that. I hate when people tell me to smile. I hate that. And, like, people are like, oh, it's such a trivial thing. It is. So why do you mention it?
It's like, why don't you fucking smile?
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Oh, you should smile more. It looks great on you. Oh, so I don't look good regardless? Or are you just, like, uncomfortable that I'm not smiling at you?
Yeah, no, I feel
it's like a thing, I think, with the masculinity of our society, like, still having those, like, subtle, unconscious, like, objectifying women, that they have to look pretty kind of thing. And, yeah, it's not fair, and
it's a huge thing, and
we need a shift out of that.
It's all for self-serving purposes.
Yeah.
Because it's like a dude who you've never met, he's never met you, is telling you to do something and that's your first interaction is, I think you should smile more. It's like, who the fuck are you?
Oh my gosh, you should see some of my streams. So I stream on a couple different sites, and one of them, like I said, I have like a younger audience, and the other one is only like 18 and over. Mm-hmm. And it's like all like supposed to be family friendly basically. So, and because it's a foreign app, they have like a lot of rules when it comes to like what clothing women can wear. Like I can't show my shoulders on this app. Like I can't wear like a super V-neck. You know, I can't do that. I can't wear shorts, like that kind of stuff on live because whatever, okay, fine. Like I can do that. But I get so many guys just pop into my room and be like, take your shirt off. So many, just first thing they say to me, or they'll be like, oh, hey baby. That I do not, it does not work with me. If someone pops in my chat and says, hey baby, I immediately kick them out because my name is Eliza. I don't appreciate being called baby. I don't do pet names. You don't know me. So, you know, oh gosh, so many of them. Or like, and there's sometimes where I'll explain it, or I feel the need to explain it. Like, especially in my younger audience, where if I have adult men come in and like say those things to me, I'll correct them. I'll be like, my name is not baby. My name is Eliza. I, you know, have a name. And if you're going to be in my stream, it'd be nice if you get to know me. Or people are like, can I have your phone number? You want me to give you my personal phone number online in front of 500 people so we can chat privately? I don't know you. You're a stranger. Oh, you have a boyfriend? Doesn't matter? The answer is no. You know, like, and so my like younger audience sees that, and when people come in and say that, they'll be like, don't call her baby.
Love that. Love that.
They're like, you know,
you built, that's like you have built a tribe there.
I had
support you. That's awesome.
I had a kid message me, and she's like, my dad says you're a radical. And I was like, what? I've never been called a radical before. I mean, if he thinks just like basic feminism is radical, then sure. Like
that's so funny.
So as far as healing from these traumas, this is a personal belief, but I feel like the best way to heal from traumas is always trying to take something away and learning from it. So from this, what would you say, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but like what would you say the best thing you've learned throughout this whole process? Is
that you can help people with it. It's that like, even though I knew it, I was going to school for psychology, like I knew it, it's different, I think, when you can relate. People feel more comfortable when you can like relate versus like people will be like, well, you can't be a substance abuse counselor if you have never experienced substance abuse. You know, that kind of argument. You can't like, you know, help people with PTSD because you don't understand trauma, which I don't necessarily agree with because I think a lot of things like, you know, tools can be applied in many different ways. But I do think that for me, I'm not a professional, I'm a friend, you know, and I'm like a mentor in some, you know, some aspects to different like women's groups or whatever. And to me, the ability to be like, look, these are resources that helped me. And like, this is my personal experience that I'm sharing with you can be so powerful. Like even just to talk about it with somebody who's not like a professional, not like, you know, a counselor or somebody that can actually like be emotional,
a peer,
you know,
of some sort.
Yeah, like I think that was definitely something that I took away from that, and the impact. I didn't realize how impactful that was until like I became like an admin to this group, and I had women message me, and I had people, even when I came out last year, because I had a cyst rupture and I was in the hospital and like hemorrhaged, and I was like, you know what, I deal with this stuff every month. Like I'm in pain, I have PMDD, like it causes me to have like 2 weeks of like good weeks and then 2 weeks of just like hell, like every month. And it's so depressing and it feels like a roller coaster. And like a lot of women get like misdiagnosed with bipolarism when really it's PMDD. And they get misdiagnosed with like a lot of things because it's like a newer thing that people are looking into. When I put like my story out there, I had so many women be like, can you tell me about this? I think I might have this. I think that like this is something that like I want to look more into, or like this is something that I struggle with and I didn't realize that it might not be normal, but it's common.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like, a lot of things in our society in general, like, we all struggle with similar things. It's very common, but it's not normal for humans to, like, you know, have some of these, like, things, like lack of community, you know, like, that's not really a normal thing for humans now, like, you know, or in the past, but we've been going that way very quickly. Or, you know, like, those kinds of things. So I think, like, talking about things and, like, trauma, a lot of us have trauma. Everybody has been through something. Everybody has been through something difficult in their life. I think people put it, like, on a hierarchy when it doesn't need to be. I think everyone's pain is valid, period. Like, whether you come from, like, a place of privilege or not. Sure, if you're privileged, you might have more resources, you know, to whatever. Or you might feel super alone because nobody talks about it. You don't have a community, or, you know, whatever. Like, I think that in order for, like you said, to get, like, through trauma, you have to be able to kind of see what you can get from it. And I think, or what you can give from it, really, not really for yourself, but, like, what you can get from it helps with the healing. I think seeing the impact firsthand has been super helpful for me, because the guy who was my abuser, he doesn't live here now, but he moved to this town, and I ran into him like 2 years ago for the first time in such a long time. I had such a breakdown. It was for a second, you know, whatever. I found out that he was, like, seeing someone that I knew. She didn't know my story. I posted my story up in a group about the person, and she recognized it just from the details that I was sharing about this person.
It was similar to her experience.
And she reached out to me, and we had a conversation about it. We ended up, like, talking, because he was an educator. So talking about, like, the schools that he was involved with, the children that, like, were involved in, like, a different situation, that the guy ended up getting let go from the school because he was like an academic teacher that was trying to make, like, house calls to certain students, and a lot of the students were, like, international, like, you know, students, like, different minority students that's families really depended on teachers. So he was, like, camouflaging himself, being like, oh, I'm here to help out your daughter, but she's 13. Why are you driving around a 13-year-old in your car? You know, so we found out, you know, about all this situation, and so we were like, what can we do about this, you know? So, and she's like, I had no idea this happened to you. I'm like, I had no idea this happened to you. I had no idea that this was happening here. We got a bunch of teachers involved, social workers involved, and it became a thing where, like, we were able to, like, you know,
Power in numbers.
yeah, we were able to, like, make a difference. And, like, that helped me. Like, it's been years, and this was last year when that all happened. And, like, I went through so many emotions. Like, I was so scared of this guy. Like, I was so scared that he would hear that I was telling my story about the things that he did to me, you know, in this whole other situation that's now new, you know? And I was, like, having to retell my story to so many people because they all needed to know, like, what was going on and why I was involved. So I had to, like, meet people individually and tell them what happened. And gosh, that was so exhausting and so, like, emotionally just, like, crazy. But once I did it, and once I, like, realized that people care and that they want to make a difference, and I can help make a difference to make sure that that doesn't happen to somebody else, that helped me out tremendously. That helped me let go of so much anger that I didn't even know, like, I could let go of, you know?
Because now it's just not all on you. It's like when you reach out to community, it's like, wow, you can relate. And it takes that load off a little
and wow,
bit.
we can do something about this.
Yeah.
I felt so powerless. I remember I would cry because I'd be like, I didn't, like, go to the police or, like, nothing then because I didn't think anyone would listen to me. You know, it was, like, me being, like, because I was his student when I first met the guy. I was his student. We ended up dating for a while, and, you know, he was just super abusive. And so I thought to myself, if I would sit there and tell people that this, you know, clean-cut educator who can, like, talk circles around me is doing all this stuff, and they ask him, they're never going to believe me. Cops came to our house, he would talk circles around me, they would just leave, you know? And that was such a lonely place for me. And so whenever I was able to be like, we can do something about this. Like, this person, like, has hurt so many other people. And I used to be upset because I used to say, oh, gosh, I didn't do anything about it then. He's hurting all these people. I know he is. And so now I'm like, oh, I can do something about this. I no longer have that guilt, you know. I no longer have that thing where like I could have done something and I didn't. And I think that's again a lot of that, if not me then who, type of like, you know, more of a motivation for that.
And I feel like by telling your story like you did and getting that ball rolling, and then eventually, you know, basically kind of fucking his life up in return.
Yeah.
That allows you to not have to carry that experience or that guilt with you, and it's not going to maybe negatively shape who you are in the future.
Oh, like I said, it made me so angry for such a long time. I felt so angry, and I felt guilt for not doing anything, and I felt angry at myself for like allowing things to like go that long, and like I felt like all these things. And then in the end of the day though, like even like when I had to talk to my dad about it, he was like, you had like, what could you have done? Like, you were in an abusive situation. And I know a lot of survivors of those will say the same thing. They'll be like, oh, you know, I let it happen. And like, sure, but like I was torn down in every aspect, you know, and I depended on this person for I don't even know what, you know, and letting all of that go. And with all of this, like with all of the getting other people involved and, you know, really working towards not even for myself, like working towards it to stop it from happening to like children. Like,
at some point it becomes bigger than just you.
And that helped me a lot, being part of something bigger than me. I think that a lot of, even just like what I enjoy the most, like being parts of festivals, being parts of like bigger movements, is so I can like contribute to something bigger than myself. I don't necessarily like to like, people like, oh, you should do your own gallery. I don't like that. I don't like to just show my own work or like, you know, showcase just me. It makes me uncomfortable. I like to like bring other people in and like, I don't know, make something out of it.
Yeah, I like that mentality too, because I don't know, it's fun to, like you're saying, the sharing of perspective. It changes how you think about things, how you experience things, and vice versa to those people. Whereas like by yourself, it's like no one's comparing anything else to you. It's just, all right, your stuff.
Yeah, it's I have this thing where like I've noticed in some places they have like things that are supposed to be outlets for creatives, but really becomes like a one-person show. So it's like hey, let's do like this collaborative event, and then not credit any of the people involved in it, or just have a single person as the face of it. I feel uncomfortable in those situations, because like I just feel like if we're showcasing everybody's stuff, showcase everyone's stuff, you know, like let everybody else speak for themselves. Like don't just have like one person be like, well, this is what we're all doing here, but it's my idea. Like I hear that a lot. Even like with our small community here, there's certain people that I feel kind of thrive off of that individual attention that they get from showcasing other people. And I've backed away from that part of the community a lot, because I was like, why is it that you can't pay any of these artists, yet you're getting paid to do your stuff, and then it ends up being all about you, and then you screw over everyone who joins. Like I was like, that makes me uncomfortable.
Just thinking in terms of like, if you were to create a community like this, what would you consider being the best way of developing something where everyone can have, it's like all inclusivity? Have you thought of that at all?
Yeah, I've had we've thought about a bunch of things, because I used to be part of Midnight Sun, and we used to do tea nights. Every Sunday we would have Gong Fu Cha, like tea, and we would have the guy from Unity, Jeff. He was the main tea source. So he sourced tea from Japan, Taiwan, China, had like direct lines to the farm. So he would like talk about the tea and like whatever. And it was beautiful. It was like we get to try it, we get to taste it. But then we also had open conversation for everybody. And then from that, we kind of evolved to like having different themed nights, or like, you know, talking about having different people be in the shop or running their own events, or, you know, that kind of thing, where like we were able to like build off of each other and then support each other. What I think, if I would do something like that, it'd probably be in a very similar space. It would be like an open space where people could kind of just have conversations around different showcases of things. Like, even if it's just like a listening room. Like, if a band comes out with a new album, we want to listen to the album. You want to talk about the album. Like, you know, you want to like have a breakdown. Like, I think that would be cool. I think hearing the different layers of how art becomes art is really interesting, because like sure, you're supposed to interpret it yourself as like the viewer, but like having an understanding of like what an artist is trying to say also is very interesting to me. I think that
It's kind of like a speakeasy sort of vibe.
I think I think like having like collective events would be really cool to do.
How did you feel about like how A Lovely Time was put on?
So with A Lovely Time, I know it was because I was involved the first year, and then the second year I helped try to set up workshops, because I thought that would be really cool to have during the day, because there wasn't much to do during the day. I think Nick was cool with the idea, but didn't really want to like help a lot with it, which is fine because he was doing everything. And like at the last minute, like I was like, oh, I have to like, I like did the lineup for him, like the graphic for that, for like the different things, and I was like, oh, I'll help out, I'll do stuff. I think it was really awesome to have local people showcased. I think that like it was like really cool to like not really bring in a lot of national acts, like bring in local stuff, because that's how you're going to get support of the community. That's how people are going to get support of each other. I think bringing in local artists like glassblowers, like, Cup of Ramen, like Celine being there, so cool. Jeff from Unity was there. He had a tea stand there. I think like that can build so much more. And I really hope that in the future he continues to like showcase local bands, and he continues to kind of like, I don't know, do other things. I know he really focused on the skating part of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's his passion, he loves that. Yeah. And so when I was like, we need to do other workshops, he's like, but why? And I was like, oh, let me tell ya.
Yeah.
Because
not everyone who maybe wants to go to this festival cares about skating.
And maybe not everybody even knows any of the bands.
Right.
That's the other thing. So like if you had like hula hooping workshops, or you had like martial arts workshops, we had the drumming circle, we had like dream analysis, but if you had a bunch of them, which
something
is
more kinesthetic than just viewing,
like
it gets people active and engaged with the community.
Even like if they had, I don't know, what did I want? I wanted definitely different yoga classes. I definitely wanted different flow arts classes. Even like I wanted to do like a collective like art piece, because I did that once at Return to Roots. We had like a giant like tapestry, and we all just did a static dancing over it, paint on ourselves, and we just created like this big thing, and then like wrote like, I don't know, Unity or something over it, and it was just fun. It was fun to have the entire festival do something. We used to have this thing called the Conclave, which was phenomenal, and I really hope maybe eventually we can do this. But it was we had a giant, like every year a different artist did like an effigy. My first year it was a lotus, and it was this lotus, and it was wood, and when it's caught on fire it all opened.
Oh, that's so cool.
And the way it caught on fire was, it started with the flame that came from the owner of the festival, and she lit 2 people, and everybody lit their fire off of that fire, and everyone was fire dancing until it got to the center where they lit the lotus, and then finally everyone like sat down and the lotus like opened. And it was such a unifying thing for the entire like community, the entire festival, whether you were a flow artist or not, you're like part of this thing. And I think that would be a really cool addition, whether it's giant effigy or not. It would still be like a really, really cool thing. I don't know. I think that would be cool to add to it, but I think the location is beautiful. I love it.
There's so much potential.
Yeah, I love it.
So I do know that recently, like this during the pandemic, I kind of was the catalyst for this, but my brother got me into disc golf, and I have since then gotten like all of my friends into disc golf, or at least like playing once in a while. And they're talking with Nick Murr, who owns Snow Ridge, to develop a course
Oh,
on
fun.
property, which, being that I've only been disc golfing since like end of June, I have gotten into that community, and like all of those people are so like down to earth, super nice, and they all like going to these events.
Yeah.
Like, Disc Jam is
Mhm.
a well-known festival, and that's literally what it is. It's people playing ultimate frisbee and disc golf, and then there's like, you know, arts and crafts happening at the same time. And
That's
so it's just including more things
that's
like that.
exactly what I
Yeah.
told Nick. I was like, if you have to open up a festival to different groups of people. So like it might be a music festival, but if you have some flow art stuff, now those flow artists are gonna come.
Yeah.
Or you know, if you had like more like you know, painting stuff, maybe like more painting people would come. Or if you had more like open jam stuff, like, you know, it depends on like the people that you want to be there. You have to invite them. You can't just expect them to show up. You have to go out into
Good
these
point.
communities
Let them know it's
and let them
happening.
know. And that's the same thing when I was talking about sponsorships, because there's lots of things that like might be willing to sponsor, but you have to advertise them. You know, you have to give them a reason to like show up and like be there and to give and to support something before it happens. A lot of people like to sit back and wait. They like to be like, well, let's see where it goes. And if you know you're still here in 3 years, maybe we'll jump on.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of like, I get it, but like that's why like at the beginning you have to be like, look, this is what I want to do. This is like where I'm gonna go with it, and I really want like you and like your product or your people or your music or whatever to like be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like not just show up, like be a part of it.
And make that like deeply ingrained in the platform. A lovely time being the platform for creativity and maybe thinking open-mindedly and not just limiting it to just one certain niches.
Yeah,
But see
and-
that it's just open to anyone who wants to be creative.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that like I think when Nick and I were talking about it, he was like, yeah, that sounds like, you know, really, really good. But I think that there just needs to be, which would probably be, I don't think it'd be too difficult to find like a larger team of people
Yeah.
to like have things that are specifically delegated to certain people, because that's how a board works. You know, that's how festivals usually work, where you have like, you know, this person's in charge of this and this person's in charge of like talking to workshops and this person's, you know, whatever it is. Because like Nick has so many things on his plate, and I know it.
Yeah.
So
I think being close with Nick, I know that he wants everything to be just right.
yes,
and
so much.
That is honestly, all leaders have that issue where they're like, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. But at some point you have to just accept that you can't have your hand on everything, or it's not gonna work. If you want it to be perfect, you have to let those people
Can't
who
spread
know-
yourself too thin.
Yeah, like you have to teach your vision to a group of people you trust, and just trust them that they're gonna follow out the vision. You know?
I've been part of projects where at the beginning it's said to be a collective. We're gonna, you know, everybody, you know, whatever, but then the person in charge is like, no. I know I said I liked your ideas, but we're not going to use any of them. You know, we're only going to use all my ideas, and everyone here has to use all my ideas because this was my vision. And it's like, well, the thing is, if you're doing something that's collective, you're doing something that's community, it has to be collective ideas. Whether you, like, obviously there has to be compromise, and there has to be the ability to let go of an initial vision, because that's where I think a lot of people who, you know, start projects off, they aren't necessarily prepared for. This will not turn out the way you envision it. It just won't. Nothing will. Nothing in life will ever turn out how you think it will. So be open to changes. Be open to scrapping an idea.
Yeah.
You know, be open to like, okay, I thought that we should do it this way, but this way might be more efficient. Like being able to be flexible in that, I think, creates a much better system and a much better leadership. Because when you're able to like consider other people's ideas, consider other people's perspectives and experience, because everyone has a different experience. My experience at festivals are way different than Nick's experience at festivals, which might be different than your guys' experience at festivals. But if we all have something that we love from those experiences, we can all bring it here and then create something amazing.
Right. Because like what made you like excited to be at X festival may be very different than what you liked about a festival, and it's like we can bring all these different themes into one place, and now it's like mega festival, because it's like all these things that people wish had.
And it's not that you have to execute all of those at once, and it's not that you have to execute all of those largely. You know, I said we should do themed camps, right? Because there's going to be different camp zones, and you can put different workshops in different camp zones. So then that forces people to go into different areas and meet new people. So like you can have this camp area, and this camp area. And let's say, you know, the way I used to be involved in themed camps where people would put in applications to be like the decider of what theme it was. And I used to be part of Camp Flora, and I used to be part of Camp Spinco. So when we would go places, if Spinco was there, their theme was space. So they brought like space decorations, they brought like lights, and they had like different music that went on there. Like they had like, you know, EDM music that would happen in Spinco. So like people wanted to camp there, knew what they were expecting, and then people who wanted to like, you know, go to this stuff knew where they could visit. And like people maybe, you know, they had poi class there or whatever. So you were still able to go around, meet new people, meet new interests. Let's say there's like a family camping. You know, it's family camping. People are going to want it more quiet. They're going to want it to be more family friendly. You're not going to have naked people tripping on acid in the family camp zone. But you could have like, you know,
parents tripping on acid.
Maybe. But you could have like, you know, drum circle there. You could have like, you know, different things there that's like also family friendly, or even like clown class, or like people that want to do like stuff with kids, like they know, you know, whatever. But you're free to go wherever. I think theme camping is so much fun. And then you just have general camping, people that don't care, you know. Yeah. But it's just I had so much fun going to different theme camps. There used to be, and I even suggested Red Tent. You know what Red Tent is here?
Is it local?
Well, there is a chapter here, but it's like it's just a women's group. It's like,
I think it's kind of similar to what they downstairs.
Oh,
with the fairy tent.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes. Yep. So you know, it's a tent. You know, it's a red tent. It's red, and basically like women go there and they talk about women's stuff, and it's like a safe place for women. And being a female going to festivals by yourself is sometimes terrifying. I have done it. And I had a guy who literally followed me around all festival, and like I was cool with him, like hanging out with our group, but at the end of the night he wanted to come into my tent, and I was by myself, and I had a big tent, and he's like, well, you have a big tent, and I'm like, that's for me and all my flow gear, like that is not for you. And the fact that like, you know, so if I had like, I don't know, a place that you can go that's like safe, like that would be helpful. There was also a sanctuary at the one festival I went to, which was first time I tripped on mushrooms was in Sanctuary, and it was amazing. It was a healing place. So you go there, and they had healers that just went there to hang out. They did crystal healing, they had music, you know, and when you have those places available, whether or not like it's a booth rental, like if you have a place for healers, they're going to sit there. Yeah. You know, they're going to bring the energy. If you have a place for like drum circle, there's probably going to be someone there all the time. And so like it just, I don't know, it creates like a cool kind of like, there's so many more things to do than like sit in front of the stage.
Right.
Yeah. And I get bored of that.
Especially
personally, so
during the day when there's no one on.
Yeah.
What are people doing?
There has to be stuff happening at all times. People that's what they're paying for, to be, right? It's like, I'm not paying.
It has to be experience
I'm
rather than
not
just a
paying
visual.
to go somewhere to come up with my own idea of what I should do with my time. It's like, there should be things that I can pick from that I want to spend my time doing.
Especially if you're going by yourself, because that's a really intimidating thing. If you were like, oh, my favorite band is going to be there, but none of my friends want to go, well, now you have nothing to really talk about to anybody with. You don't have like a themed camp. You don't have like workshops where you can meet new people. Like the only thing you can really do is kind of enjoy the music, which is great and beautiful, but some people need more of a motivation to speak to other people. I know
Definitely.
I would be if I was like going to like all these people know each other because they're all locals kind of situation. I'd probably be pretty intimidated to be like, hey, I'm not from Syracuse. I'm from, down the street, and I thought this was cool. It might be a little difficult for some people to do that.
That's a good point, too, because we're all from Syracuse going to this unknown location kind of thing. And it's like even the people in that community might not want to go because it's just all Syracuse people.
And there's nothing for them to do.
Yeah.
You don't add anything like, oh, I could go to this festival and watch Syracuse bands. Awesome. Or I can go to this festival, watch Syracuse band, and also learn to, do whatever it is. Like do some yoga or do some I don't know, whatever.
Well, I'm sold on the idea.
I think
we
workshops
should talk
would
to
be
Nick.
amazing.
I think that I definitely will give credit to him or anyone who started a festival. Like, there's no way
absolutely.
that year 1 or 2 you're really gonna have this expansive
Year
thing.
1 was my favorite.
Yeah, it was
one
fun
was
because it was
fun.
at first it was kind of awkward for everyone, but as it went, it was okay, people were starting to get it, and
we met some cool bands that we're still friends with, year 1 and year 2, people that we had no idea. Groton Ave Boys, we met them. They camped right next to us. They were so cool.
I think the best part of that was a lot of festivals I've been to, the bands kind of they camp separate from the general pop, and then they don't really stay. They don't experience the festival. They're like, oh, we're just here for our paycheck, and they're dip out. And I like that aspect that they were just partying with everyone else.
Yeah. Who else did we meet? And then we met Dello Waters? Is that what they call themselves? From the first year.
Exactly what you're
Jack.
saying.
He's really cool. We went when Anthony and I went down the coast. He played in a couple different places, and I live painted. It was a little tour. We went to DC, and Jack was living there, and he brought his saxophone out.
Cool.
And we met him at a lovely time, and we've just, stayed friends with him. So we've made some really cool friends through stuff like this. And I think the bigger it gets, the more of those types of connections happen. And I think that's because even talking to Nick, that was one of his things was spreading music and spreading the idea of just being creative or whatever. And I think that is really at the essence of it, and that's what makes it so fun. I think that yes, anybody that starts a festival, I mean, I wouldn't. I would. I don't know how. I would. Yeah, I'm cool being on board with something, but having the putting the initiative out there is such a risk to anybody. And I think overall.
Well, on a legal side, it's the liability too.
Oh, we were talking about medical tents and all that stuff with him before, because
security.
Yeah. Yes. Yup. Because there's some people that I had at the last festival, Last Lovely Time. One of the bands there, I had an issue with because the lead singer was stalking me.
Oh shit.
And there's not really security, and I literally had to call the police on this guy. I had to petition for a restraining order, and I had to get him banned from my work, and so that was one of those things where I was man, I'm in the woods, I'm walking around, this is kind of, again, uncomfortable, which is why I think that, there should be a red tent. But I think that definitely there's obviously kinks to work out and how to deal with situations like that, right? Because he was a band playing. You can't kick the band off the
right.
The lineup unless you really wanted to, which I'm never gonna ask someone to do that. There's things that a board would help with, because you can exchange those ideas on what you think should be appropriate to do and what isn't, or whatever.
Also, having a board makes it from it being oh, well, so-and-so said this to me in a one-off conversation, and then, I don't know, a few weeks go by and I forgot that conversation happened. Now this person says something similar but not the same.
That happens a lot.
It's getting a unified message that everyone agrees on in writing.
Yes.
Then it's boom, this is happening now. Not oh, well, I don't remember, I forgot, I was working on building a skate ramp or doing X, Y, and Z.
And it helps with egos.
Yeah.
Because you then have to explain your idea to multiple people, and then you have to listen to alternative perspectives, and I think that helps out a lot, because then even if you think your idea is the best idea ever, if all these people are saying no, then maybe you should reconsider, you know? And then it kind of, I think, can help with like I said, with like ego stuff, with like
It's good for just like human development.
yeah, with like anything, honestly, like having again outside perspectives, outside experiences, because there's things that I wouldn't consider because I never went through them. I never experienced them. So like those things are off my radar. I don't know what I don't know. So if somebody else knows about it and they're going to be like, "Oh, but what about if this situation happens because it happened to me and, you know, whatever," then we can be like, "Oh, that is something that we need to consider," because there's lots of things to consider.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think this is good. Like this conversation is really good just about like any collective type thing, because I think like you're saying, now this grandiose idea of this awesome thing happening, and then that person may be bummed after the thing happens because they're like, well, it didn't work out the way I wanted to. But I think it's like being able to step away from your ego and accept that, like, maybe just because you think, or maybe your direct circle of friends think that this thing will be cool, doesn't mean that all the other people you assume are going to show up are going to think it's cool.
Yes.
So having multiple perspectives is like, well, my friends think this would be cool. Not that they don't think that's cool, but like this would also draw them in.
Right. Be
this
like,
would also draw them in.
Be like, okay, well, I'm close to 20 people, and those 20 people say that they would like this thing. Okay, cool. But what if those 20 people are the only people that are into it?
Yeah.
You know, then like, I mean, it's still cool, but
yeah, but it's like you're gonna bum out 50 other people who didn't come here for that, and they're like, oh, this is all there is. So I'm not gonna come next year. Or even when we did like our tea events, that was one thing, you know, we tried to, you know, do different things and see what people liked, or even like conversation wise. So the idea behind it was really, first we wanted to do a tea meditation. So we started with, you know, a tea, and then we did a meditation in between for the second tea, and then we did like another tea. And like Jeff would do the teas, and sometimes I would do the meditation, and it like turned out really cool, and then like evolved to more like open conversation, because we started getting a lot of different people from a lot of different places. And I feel that as adults, at least it was like, it might be a little easier now since like we haven't been around each other and bars aren't open as much, but to hang out as adults, what would we all do? We would go to the bar, yell over each other, and like not be able to have genuine conversations about anything. It's just I love that you said that, because I've always wondered why that is the commonality. Like, why is this the normal thing, and hanging out and doing that is weird
or inappropriate? Or like, it's like, I don't know,
it's like every time I've gone to the bar, one, I'm not an avid bar goer. I will go out because, like, sometimes that's all people that you want to hang out are doing. You're like, oh, fuck, all right, I guess I'm going to go. But it's like, it just seems like the same thing.
It is.
Every time. There's no, like, nothing changes afterwards. I got drunk. I ended up buying food that's bad for me, and I wake up the next morning feeling like shit.
And people love doing that.
And nothing's memorable about it.
This is why I got rid of Snapchat.
Yeah. It's like, oh, wow, all my friends are out drinking. Like, cool. You know?
Yeah, I remember, back when, let's see, right as like I was going through like a lot of like trauma stuff, and I was like getting over like whatever, and I was drinking a lot. I would go on Snapchat, be like, yeah, we're having a great night with my friends, and I would like buy the next day. Cause like wake up and be like, oh gosh, I'm hungover, and like I would like watch my son, like, oh man, oh no, you know, and like that was fun and all, but it was also not, you know,
like I guess like,
and then you grow up and you're like, what else is there to do?
Yeah,
and things like the tea thing, what you're talking about, is so much more like healing, and it creates the opportunity to talk about real stuff,
real things,
and it's memorable. Like, I couldn't tell you about the time I went to bar, like what night did I go to the bar. Like, I don't fucking remember that night. Like, anything could have happened. Probably the same shit happened 3 other times.
Right.
Whereas like this, it's like, remember that conversation we had
yes
that one night at tea? Like, wow.
So and honestly, and making friends too. It's so weird as an adult to like go out to like a bar and make friends. It's
awkward.
It's like
nearly impossible.
You just stay with your clique, and then it's usually if someone's talking to someone else, it's probably because they're trying to hook up with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it creates an unsafe environment to meet up with people,
Mhm.
because it's like
inebriated.
there's already like some premeditated like intention that's like not for the best intentions.
Right. No, and I completely agree with that. And so I sometimes get very like uncomfortable when people approach me, because usually if I'm out, it's because I am either I was getting done working at Funk, or if Anthony was playing, right? Or if like one of my friends were playing, like I was going to see like a band. So I'm there for my friends to support them, support my boyfriend, whatever. And so I'm usually sitting by myself. And so a lot of the times people see that as like an invitation to like talk to me, which I don't care. You can come and say hi and talk to me. I'll tell you about the band. I'll tell you like about the city if you want to know. And a lot of times it was like, SU people or like whatever. And they'd be like, oh, hi. I'd be like, hey, whatever. And at first it would start off with them probably trying to hit on me. And I would very quickly be like, oh, yes, I'm here, for the band. It's my boyfriend. This is a cool bar. What was there around to do around here? Lots of stuff, But then there are situations where, like, I'm sitting by myself and immediately someone's, like, sits right next to me, or, like, puts their arm around me. And I'm like, I don't know you.
Yeah.
This is not what I'm here for. And I find that people often feel entitled to my attention whenever I'm by myself. People feel entitled to me, like, talking to them or, like, engaging in a way, like you said, where they have, like, an intention, where they're trying to, get my phone number. They're trying to, like, be some type of way that I'm not okay with. And that entitlement has gotten me to points where, like, I have to, like, shove people, I have to, like, do something about it. I don't like doing. And so I don't necessarily like going to clubs or going to bars. Like, once in a while, yeah, I want to go dancing. I love dancing. I want to go to a show where I, like, get to do stuff. But, like, just going to a bar where there's nothing else, I don't necessarily like doing.
And if you think about it, like, what other environments are there late night?
Exactly.
So, like, yeah, there was Roji that closed down.
I know.
Which sucks. There's Midnight Sun closed down.
I know.
Well, I mean, can't really take this into consideration because of COVID.
Yeah.
But, like, just thinking in regular society, like, how many late night activities can you really do that doesn't involve drinking?
I've been talking about this for years here.
Let's do it. Let's make something.
I have
seriously.
a friend, Byron Cage. He is, if you guys don't know him, you guys should.
I don't think I've met him before.
You guys should just talk to him. He is amazing. He is a Grammy nominated drummer. He plays with my boyfriend. But Byron has an idea to, like, open, I don't know if he's, like, openly talked about, like, what is, so I won't go into too much detail, but he wants to, like, open a venue here that has, like, alternative, like, things. And, like, I've wanted to, like, have a kava bar, like, do kava, kratom, like, different types of, like, mellow teas, an alternative to liquor.
Which is your favorite tea?
Which is my favorite tea?
Yeah. Just side note here.
My favorite tea is actually Alishan, which is a Taiwanese tea. It's grown on the Alishan mountain. And my favorite one was actually from Jeff Unity. His cultivar that he works with had just it's so good. It's like lightly sweet, but then has like a little bit of like umami, and you can really taste the minerality. And it's this beautiful golden color. It's my favorite tea. So, I mean, he wants to have music and just like a lot of different things that is going to be, I think, more inviting, like just different, like not just the regular kind of like what everybody else does. I feel like, the location that he wants is really, really cool. It would be downtown as well, which I think is really needed to have something new down there, and I don't know. I'm excited for that to like start and like, him to like do that. I mean, there's going to be like a lot of renovations and whatnot, but just in general, like, I see so many locations where I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool to have something cool there. Or even like the place where like Urban Outfitters used to be.
Yeah,
like
space.
That could be a collective so easily because they have so many loft spaces.
True.
And like it's all super modern looking, and you could really put anything in it. That old place where Daisy Dukes used to be, like that's just empty.
There's I don't know do you follow Syracuse history?
Mm-hmm.
So I met him probably like 2 years ago. Super cool dude. I don't know if you've met him before, but like following that page, I started to realize how many of these just like abandoned places or buildings were only like one floor, the ground floor of the building is being in use, and the top floors haven't been touched in decades.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what
Innovation.
is all this space for?
I feel like COVID is definitely going to help with that. Like, once everything is like, you know, people are able to be out, I think people are going to want more.
Yeah.
You know, people are going, at least I hope so. I think that even with everything, I think people are noticing that community is really important. I think that people are, at least, again, I hope that people are realizing that arts and expressing yourself is really important. And I hope that we see like more of like a renaissance here. That's one thing that actually made me stay in Syracuse whenever I first started coming here, was I felt this underground kind of like movement of arts, of like
Definitely.
people
Yes.
doing stuff. And this was,
100%.
you know, several years, 5 years ago now. And that was when I moved here after I met my boyfriend, who moved back here from Denver. So we both were moving here. And that was one thing I said to him when I first met him was, you know what, I think that there is just really cool underground movement of arts. Like, people are going towards it. It's being more, I guess, celebrated, which I think is beautiful. However, I have noticed kind of like that thing I mentioned earlier, where like, even though it seems to be celebrated in some aspects, it becomes like a one-person show, and not in like the best way either. And so like, I don't know, I think that more people opening more stuff, and more people like bringing new ideas,
Yeah.
and taking the risk, because that's one thing. Like, if you open up a pizza shop here, it's probably gonna do fine, you know. But if you open up a tea shop here, that's a bit more of a risk, you know.
Right.
If you open up, you know, a hookah bar or like a kava bar or like that kind of stuff, that's newer here. People might not go for it because it's not something that everyone's aware of, especially like locals, you know.
Yeah, that's a hard thing with trying to push like these alternative kind of perspectives. Is you have to cater to the culture that you're presenting to. As cool as it would be to have a tea bar, it's like it might not be receptive.
Yes.
So this caveats perfectly into what I was saying during our little technical break, is that the idea of Destiny USA basically ceasing to exist, which should happen relatively soon. I mean, it's already happening.
Yeah.
And I've always been so irked by it. The more I like became passionate about Syracuse and its potential, and 81 being taken care of at some point, hopefully, is that like this city is going to have this revival that it's needed for so damn long.
So
like,
long.
If you think about Syracuse in its heyday, when this, you know, early 1900s, like this city was popping.
Even
there was stuff to do.
Even during like the, what was it, like the 80s.
Yeah.
Like even during like the 70s, like music, because it was so easy to stop in Syracuse from touring. So you had so many amazing musicians come here and play shows at Dino. You know, like it has so much history. It has so much, you know, so many things that people could be excited for. But yet, what do people know us for? They know Syracuse for the university.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
where the
other than
money
that,
is.
it's just like jokes on SNL.
Right. and even like when I worked at the mall, right out of college, just for a brief stint, I remember meeting people who were shopping there, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm from Toronto or something, and I came down just to come to this mall. And I'm like, you know how much that hurts me that you just said that? You didn't come here to see this, how cool this city is, because once you like start exploring it a little bit, you're like, holy shit, there's so much history here, and there's so many cool things to see. And all you care about is shopping. What's shopping at like a chain store? You could go literally anywhere to go shop at, or just go online to shop at.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. When I was in college up in Watertown, I was working at Cost Cutters in the mall because I was doing hair, and we would get so many Canadians come through, and they would come get their hair done, and they would do their shopping there because it was cheaper to shop in the U.S. And so they didn't get all these like luxury outlets that they do at Destiny. So they would, you know, come here, spend day shopping at the mall in Watertown, go, and they take a bus. They had like tour buses that would come
just to go to the mall.
to Destiny USA to go shopping. Yeah.
It's, and it's like, that's not what this community is about.
Right?
I think if you did a canvas of the majority of people here, I bet you would get a more people saying that they would be totally fine if Destiny USA didn't exist anymore.
I would agree with that. I think that people see it as maybe something to do in the winter to like walk around, but like whatever, you could put other things in there.
And like also, not only did that strip businesses away from downtown,
oh my god,
it stripped businesses away from other areas surrounding.
Really,
like all their malls got fucked because of Destiny USA.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so what? You got to be the last mall to go out. You're still gonna die eventually. So
and again, it doesn't cater to the local community. No. Like a lot of us aren't going to be shopping at those stores.
Right.
I can't even afford to shop at half of them, And like when I go there, it's kind of sad. It's just like, and the thing is, like, the architecture could be beautiful. Like you could put so many things in there and like make it into something better, but instead they're focusing on chains, on this false sense of luxury, on like,
and all that does on a macroeconomic standpoint is it drains all of the resources from Syracuse to these big corporations,
right? And
all that money is getting pulled elsewhere, and then it just kind of leaves us in the dust.
And then they also like they wonder why the like society around us is suffering so much, and like why they're like, oh, we had to have like actual police officers here at Destiny because people are stealing or people are fighting or people are whatever. And it's like, well, you aren't even creating a good environment in your own space. So like I don't know what the best option would be other than, I don't know, change. Like,
what was your idea that you had?
You're fine.
Didn't you say you had an idea if Destiny USA were to like?
Well, what I'm saying is that the reason you can't, like, you're not gonna go on a shopping spree downtown Syracuse. Tell me how many stores are downtown Syracuse.
There's none now.
Exactly.
They've all closed.
And so it's like, first of all, if you look at any, like, not like major cities, I know if you go to like Chicago or New York, you're still gonna get those areas where it's like super touristy, tons of chain, but there's still local businesses that run stores that people like, I'm going to New York because I want to go to this store that I can't go anywhere else.
Yes.
And yeah, I could buy their stuff online, but it's something about being there. And I know there's tons of locals who have businesses such as that could thrive in a downtown environment where people are coming to Syracuse not to go to Destiny USA, but to go to Syracuse to see locals and what they have to offer, and that's not happening right now.
Well, isn't this what like Michael John's trying to do with
so yeah,
Wildflowers?
he's definitely like starting to like kind of get that ball rolling, but it can't just take him. It's got to be more than just Michael John Haggerty running Syracuse. I know he doesn't think that it should just be him too. So but unfortunately we have to fight like the evil empire over here, just like even the other day, I got this like eerie feeling. I like was looking at the skyline. I could just see Destiny USA like off in the distance, and it made me cringe. I was like, look at that, just like.
You remember when they changed it to Destiny USA? Like they changed the name of it, and I remember, and I wasn't even
so
like.
Bad.
I remember when they changed it. I wasn't even living here yet, and I was like, that's a weird thing to do. Like, that's the Carousel Mall. Why would they change the name? They're like, because it's like a shopping experience. And I was like, it's
and
just...
it didn't even end up being what they, like... if you remember, the original, like, idea was like, oh, there's going to be, like, an indoor water park, and there's going to be this crazy hotel that looks like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, they were supposed to have, like, a dance club in there or something. Yeah.
It just never, like...
You know what? The thing is, they could still do those things if they wanted to. Like, if they wanted to, like, have a dance club in it, like, they could do that. If they wanted to have, like, more, ethnic foods in there, they could do that. Like, they could invest in, like, better, like, things that would feed the community an experience and not, like, just take from it.
And I think another group of people in Syracuse that just opened something that is going to change the fabric of Syracuse is the salt market. So I've been working with the Allen Foundation for the last like 7 months or whatever as they've built this and like filming it and getting to really see like what goes into this and why it's happening. And it's like, the thing is, yeah, all these people are poor. A lot of people in certain neighborhoods of Syracuse are poor.
Yes.
And the only place that they can go get food is a McDonald's or go to the food court at Destiny USA, which is, again, just a bunch of food that's bad for you.
Yes.
And the Salt Market just brought, I don't want to say it's, like, super cheap, but it's definitely not, like, extravagantly bougie to go get food there.
Right.
So people of lower income can go there and experience different cultured foods at a good price. And it's healthy food. It's not like you're not going to go get a burger that's like got stupid preservatives and stuff in it. It's, you know, it's made by a local and it's fresh and it's good, and there's going to be the cooperative market there. And, you know, downtown's a food desert.
Yeah.
So like that's the other thing. We're not even addressing that. So
yeah, actually, I was just talking about this the other day with my mom. I was like, I forgot what we were talking about. And I was like, you know, it's so difficult for people to be healthy and to have, like, if you know, go in some of these neighborhoods, there's no real grocery stores. They have, like, a little bodega, and the stuff is not very fresh and it's super overpriced. Or, you know, they live next to, like, you know, some, like, fast food or, you know, takeout or whatever. And they can't even, there's, like, eating healthy, especially when you don't have the resources to do so, can be so expensive and so difficult, especially to feed, like, family. To feed a family, you know, it's much cheaper to buy 12 burgers at McDonald's than it is to buy, you know, fresh, you know, protein and fresh vegetables to feed your, you know, your kids for tonight. Like, you know, and so these people are having to do, you know, with what they have. And when you give people resources, when you give people affordable resources to better themselves, most people will take it. Most people will be like, you know what? Yeah, I could do it for a salad today, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's so many kids that I know that don't eat vegetables at all, period. And I'm like, but how? Vegetables are so good.
They never were taught to, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they don't have access. Yeah, they don't have access to it.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's the sole thing that's gonna change Syracuse forever, but I think that that's a start.
Yeah.
And I wish, like, more people of power in this city would, like, listen to what we're talking about, but, like, you know.
Why would they? It doesn't help them.
I don't know. I just think, like, it makes me feel good knowing that, like, something like the Salt Market is happening.
Yes.
Because there's going to be more of that to come.
Yeah, and I hope so. I really do.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this probably last night, where I was thinking about just the idea of how people say that Syracuse is very eclectic, but culturally, I don't think so. And how I think that having places like that will kind of change that, because
you're saying the culture at large, it's just like the underground that's eclectic?
Well, I mean, we even have, like, we have different pockets of even just different minorities here that have no representation at all in this area. Like, even for me, like, I don't know another Belizean around here. I don't know any place I can get Belizean food. You know, and I know there's lots of people from all around, like Nepali. Like, they don't have, like, a Nepali place to go to. You know, there's so many different types of people we have here, and I think that having more openness to experiencing other people's cultures, other people's food, other people's it not only creates, like, a livelihood for them, it creates, like, a comfort, and it creates more of, like, a ability to share, like, to like, meet other people, to, like, you know, even, like, issues that they might have in their communities, bring light to it, you know, because now people know that they exist.
Yeah. And I also feel like bringing back things towards downtown or the north side, like all the surrounding areas, because, like, there's always this mentality that, like, I always hear people like, oh, you live in a pretty dangerous spot, don't you? And I was like, have you ever been on the west side? Like, have you ever, like, just, I don't know, like, I've lived here for over a year now, and let me tell you, I've not once felt like, oh my God, I mean, yes, bad things happen around, but that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
and if we want to talk about it in reality, dangerous stuff happens out in the suburbs too. You just don't hear about it because it happens inside a house.
Yes, exactly.
But it's like dangerous people live around
all over,
everywhere. It's just all about your perspective.
Well, the other thing I think is also the people that they choose to showcase those crimes, you know, and you see like a lot of people having a warped perspective on crime and the people that do it, mainly because of the people they choose to showcase.
Yep.
I live on the west side too. 2 years ago, I was shot at while I was in my car.
Jesus.
Like, someone drove by my car and shot it 5 times when I was sitting in it. I didn't get shot, thankfully, because my steering wheel column caught at least one of the bullets. My car caught the rest of them, and then the tree behind me caught another one. And I got done. So I was just teaching a flower arrangement class. Or I was part of, you know, Right Mind Syracuse. We were another team before, and we were doing an event with them. And we were done. I had, like, literally my bouquet, like, in my passenger seat. And I parked in front of my house, and I was messaging, like, another influencer, being like, hey, I'd really like for you to come to my event. Like, you know, if you want to do some stuff, that'd be awesome, you know. And the only reason why I stopped to do it is because you sent me a message. If I would have gotten out of my car, I would have been shot. You know, I hear this loud noise and I look over and it's this white car driving by me. And then I see like this hand in the back seat literally shooting at my car. Like I see the sparks from the gun. And I'm like, wait, they're shooting? Like, there's not like movies where people are like ducking and I'm sitting there at my, you know, looking. Like I'm looking, sitting right up, staring at this thing happening to me, being like, they're not shooting at me, right? Wait, they're shooting at me. And by the time I realized it, they were, you know, driving off. And I remember in my head being like, I have to try to remember what I'm looking at. Gone. You know, like, all I know is a white car. I, like, know I looked at a license plate. I know I looked at, like, what car it was.
It's so banged.
Gone.
Everything's just happening
you know?
so fast.
And, like, after that, my mom was like, oh, my gosh, like, you need to move. And, like, everyone was like, oh, my God, like, this is so crazy. Like, you need to, like, figure it out. Like, get out of there. Like, whatever. And we just moved to that new place after we got chased out of our old place by drug dealers. So we were already like, this is crazy. Like, we can't find a place to live. But we've been living there now for 3 years. We never, you know, rarely have an issue. Like, sure, our car got broken into, you know, like, but like that situation, we didn't let it scare us away because it wasn't anything that had to do with the community. The person that did that, like, it was probably like a gang initiation or like whatever.
That was
you know,
exactly what I thought it would be.
I know a couple of days later, they found the guy shot at the end of our street. So it could have been a case of my mistaken identity as well. But, you know, like, those things happen all over. If like, it happened to me, but it wasn't because my community was bad. I live on a nice street. Everybody I know there is nice. You know, and so
you could have let that
there.
really form a lot of resentment.
Yeah, we could have like, I could have been like, nope, I'm not living in the city anymore. I'm gonna move out to the suburbs. But I was like, no, you know, like, even whenever we got chased out from that, one of the tenants of our old place was like tripping on Spike and tried to like stab my boyfriend with a screwdriver. When we got home from tour, like, we got home from a 2-week tour.
Jeez.
And we like walked.
The first thing that happened.
Literally the first thing. It was we were like, we haven't been here, you know. So like after that happened, we were like, oh gosh, that's scary. We're leaving. And like, we can't do that too. Like, if we let every bad situation happen to us scare us out of like where we're living, that's just it's not a way to live.
Yeah.
Like, obviously we need to be safe, but like,
right.
It wasn't. Even though yes, I was part of a drive-by, it wasn't targeted, I don't think, at me. So like, I mean, what's the likelihood of that happening to me again? Not very.
I mean, how many people experience a drive-by?
I don't know. Lots.
You're the first person I've met that has ever been like, well, maybe like 1 or 2 other people, but like, it's not like super duper common, at least in the people I know.
Right.
But I mean, who's to say? I don't know the statistics on how often drive-bys happen.
Right.
To people.
Oh, it's crazy. Oh man.
But like, usually, especially in Syracuse or even in like Albany when I lived there, most of the time violence happened amongst gangs fighting other gangs.
Right.
And it had nothing to do with just an innocent person minding their own business.
Yep. I was like, I'm not the target here.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're not gonna. At first, I wasn't sure because I was dealing with a stalker. But like, after the police were like talking to me, and they're like, so is there like anyone that you like pissed off at the bar? And I'm like, does that make it a reason for them to shoot at me? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
They're like, well, has any like you like upset anyone lately enough to shoot at me? No.
That many times.
Like,
Yeah.
and then they were like, well, what do you do? I'm like, I teach art. And they're like, oh, and your boyfriend's a musician? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, so you guys probably don't believe in guns. I was like, wow, first off, I've been shooting
not
since
taking
I
you
was
seriously.
Yeah, I was like, I've been shooting since I was little. Like, my dad's an Army Ranger, and the guy was like, oh, really? And I was like, what? Again, like, you're literally stereotyping me right now. And he was like, oh, and then like another time, another group of officers came, and they were like, oh, so was this like, I mean, I don't mean to pry, but like, was this like a drug deal gone bad? And I'm like,
They're all, oh my God.
What?
I hate that shit.
and I said to him, I was like, don't you think if I knew who did this, I would have told you? And he's like, no, like that, people don't talk to us. And I was like, maybe because you say things like this. Like,
You just assume it's a drug deal gone bad.
you
instead
think
of,
that
like,
because what, I'm an artist, or because maybe I'm a Latina, or like because my boyfriend's a musician and he has tattoos, like we're doing something? Like, even if it was a drug deal gone bad, he still shouldn't shoot at me. It wasn't, but still, like, I don't deserve to be shot at.
Yeah. There's always, it's just like this generalization, like everything has to fit this storyline. Because that's all they, like, is that all they know? It's like, maybe learn how to do your job and investigate
Literally
things happening.
Literally, because I had to get the police involved multiple times. Not for that, but even after that. Because after that, I started getting death threats. Okay, I started getting death threats, and people like literally making like deep fakes of me and like sending them to me of them like murdering me.
What
It
the
was
fuck?
oh my gosh.
Did it have anything to do with that situation? It was just other shit happening.
But it was just so coincidental that I was like terrified. And oh my gosh, the images this person was sending me was just so just disturbing. And I remember, because every time they would send it to me, my boyfriend was out of town. So like I felt like this person knew where I lived or like what was happening. And like I remember I called into Funk and I was like, I can't go into work. This person is literally threatening to murder me. I called the police because I was like, I don't know. Like, I just got shot at a couple weeks ago. Like, this is happening. This stalker is doing this, and I'm scared. And the guy looked through my phone, like, looked through the photos and, like, all the stuff I was getting sent to me. They're like, why don't you block the number? I was like, this isn't phone. This is through social media. And every time I block the account, they just make a new one. They just continue doing it. And they're like, oh, well, then if you can't be online, then, if you can't deal with this kind of attention, then maybe you shouldn't be online. And I was like,
that's the solution.
Oh, that's what you say to me when somebody is literally threatening my life? Okay. And he was like, well, some women find this kind of attention flattering. I was like, do you find this attention flattering? Have you ever gotten messages like this? He's like, no. And I was like, so do you think I should consider this flattering? And he was like, well, this is individuals, obviously very disturbed. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, obviously. It's why I'm calling you, because I know they have a computer crime unit. Like, I know that this type of stuff is illegal. It's aggravated harassment, and it's literally threatening my life. Like, if I show you guys the messages, it is highly disturbing. Like, the way this person was able to describe what they wanted to do to me to such detail was stuff of, like, nightmares. Like, for real. And I had to get them involved multiple times because this person just kept doing this to me. And so finally, I called a friend of mine who is a police officer in Auburn, and she was like, why aren't they doing anything? Like, Syracuse has a police crime unit for these situations. And I was like, well, they told me they don't have resources to take up this petty stuff because I should consider this flattering, and if I don't want it, I should get off the internet. And they thought I got hacked. They were like, oh, well, if you got hacked, I didn't. You guys don't even understand.
You're like, did you even look into it? Maybe if you looked into it, you realized I wasn't hacked.
Yeah, I was like trying to explain to them. They just didn't understand. So she ended up calling like the troopers, and troopers got involved with me. And so we got the New York State computer crime unit involved. And it turned out the person was like, where they like got it to, it took months because first they had to get Instagram to like
allow it to happen.
to work with, and then they had to get Verizon to release like the IP stuff and like whatever, and like get all the metadata and like whatever, and the police officer or the trooper that was on my case, the detective, he was really good about it. Like, it was really embarrassing for me to have to like show him what was being said to me and the images that like people were making of me. Like, they weren't of me, but they were making them of me. So it kind of still felt like it portrayed me. And oh god, it was just so graphic. And so finally, you know, he's trying to get everything, and every time this person is creating new accounts, and like he's trying to get everything. And so eventually I was like, you know what, I never responded to this person. So that's the other thing that I thought was strange, is I never responded to this person, and it kept happening. And then I would complain about it to people that I knew, and then like they somehow knew when my boyfriend was gone, you know, like it was just like a weird thing. And so I was like, just stop talking about it. But I ended up responding to the person, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to troll this guy so hard. I'm not going to be like, F you, leave me alone, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that. I responded to him, and I was like, you think you're the first person to, like, ask me for nudes? He told me that he would stop if I sent him nudes. I'm like, you think you're the first person to ask me for nudes? No. I was like, and your editing really sucks. I was like, you should really learn to edit your photos. And he's like, oh, well, you know, and sent me other stuff. And I was like, dude, if I wanted to look at porn, I could do it myself, you know? Like, I was just like, your porn sucks, dude. Like, and he would get so mad at me. And I was like, I was just trolling the guy. I was just trolling him. I think I ended up, like, calling him, like, a beta, which I don't even like using that. But I was just, like, trolling the dude so hard. And he ended up getting so angry at me that he started switching it up, and he started sending me CP. Okay? So once CP started getting sent to me, that's whenever, like, the police really took it seriously. Because I was like, this guy is now sending me minors, and I don't appreciate what I just saw. So you guys need to, like, fix this. Yeah. It stopped, but it also stopped after I called the police on the stalker that was here. So there's that. I don't know if it's correlation, you know.
Did you ever figure out the identity of that person? No.
Mm-mm. They, like, pinged it. They pinged the IP address to, like, a person maybe in the city, but they couldn't tell. I mean, if you use, like, a VPN, it's very hard. And how many resources they're going to, like, use for this one thing, I doubt they're going to, like...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're going to go at that length to, like, harass someone, they're probably thinking ahead in terms of, like, how to make sure they don't get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. The police officer told me, the detective told me, because I messaged him, I was like, look, you aren't able to ping this account because every time I send it to you, by the time you get to it, they've deleted it. I am talking to the guy right now. I know you told me not to, but I am, so you can look into this right now when he is actively speaking to me. And he's like, okay. He's like, and at the end, he was like, okay, tell him that you're calling the police and not to talk to you again. I'm like, oh, my, you know, calling the police, not to talk to me again. And then the guy ended up messaging me back like days later, and he was like, oh yeah, how'd that police report go?
Wow.
Because obviously people have called the police on this guy before and nothing ever happens. Because if you're a woman on the internet, you just should expect harassment.
Yeah. And you're not like the first person to come on the show and say something like
not
similar.
at all.
It's so
What do you do?
common.
You know?
Yeah.
What do you do?
It's
Well, I think at least like people like you and me who are clearly not the harassers. I think that's something that, so in this building during quarantine, like Kyle was saying, a lot of us got a lot closer, and some of the females became outspoken about certain people who no longer live here for doing things that were borderline or if not harassment.
right.
And basically their delivery wasn't the best, but they were trying to tell us in a desperate way that like they need us as men to like talk about these things in an open environment to make those people feel uncomfortable or whatever. And it just needs to happen more.
Like a societal shift.
Yeah.
I have
Which
talked
is tough.
to
So tough, but-
it is tough. It is very tough. And I have talked to a lot of like younger feminists that are very aggressive with that type of stance. And I understand it. Like there is times where you need to be aggressive if something is happening like immediately. But if you want people to be on your side, you need to be able to have a conversation with them and be able to articulate what you want and what is happening and what you need and the severity of the issue without such emotion. It's not bad to have emotion, but sometimes, like, if you get flustered, you can say things that aren't understood the way you mean it to be understood. And so, because I've had to have this conversation with some of, like, the men that I know about, yes, they get upset and they say not all men. You know, that situation where they're like, well, not all men. And I was like, no one's saying all men. But this is a patriarchal issue. This is an issue caused by men. You know, it's an issue. Even if it's women that have this, like, internalized misogyny, that is still caused by the patriarchy. That is still caused by this inability to, I guess, like, evolve as a society. I think because people don't communicate and people don't listen to each other, which, you know, goes power dynamics, you know, different types of whatever.
And I think we're in bubbles too. So like the people that would be receptive to like this feminist movement and this kind of conversation just like get stuck in this bubble and it doesn't get out to wider.
I would agree with that completely. And I would agree the idea, especially the loudest people aren't always the most articulate. So like a lot of the times messages get, I guess, kind of sidetracked by branding of what that said movement is, which is taking away, like, you know what feminism means. You know, like, most people know what feminism means, but yet they're going to pick the most outrageous things about it and say, this is what feminism means. Okay, sure, but what about all of this stuff? You know, like, sure, the pussy hats, awesome, whatever. I didn't really care for them, but people use that as a reason to, like, shit on the, like, the feminist movement because they're like, oh, look at them doing all this dumb stuff. Look at them doing all this awesome things, you know, like, whatever. But when it comes to that, like, when it comes to the statement, not all men, that drives me crazy because, again, I'm not saying all men. I know there's good men out there. I'm dating a good man, you know, like, my father's a good man. Like, I have many men that are friends of mine that are good men. But some of them are bystanders. They just are. They might be a good person, you know, here, but they're bystanders. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it where, like, women would be getting harassed and they'll be like, oh, that's not good. Okay, I guess I'll say something, you know, like, it's a thing. So I shared this and it was quite harsh, but it was the idea that I don't want men to just be allies. I want them to be traitors of the patriarchy.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Like, I want them to sit there and they hear locker room talk and it might not be their business, but it is their responsibility to maybe
it, like, restores balance.
Yeah. It, like, might not be their business to be like, hey, don't talk about women that way. Even their friends. Like, there's been times where I've been around not my group of friends, but, like, friends of my group of friends, and I'm surprised at the people that they hang out with from what they say, from which is different from the person I know. And I'm like, you let your friends, like, talk about women that way? You like let your, like, I have a friend who's like, he's super respectful of me, or I would say we were closer friends until I realized that he was super respectful of me. We're friends, but I'm also not single, you know. I watched him literally just womanize all over. And the things that he would say about these women, he'd be like, yeah, I don't, for his birthday, he wanted to go out. So we all went out and then he didn't want to go home alone that night. And I'm like, whatever. So then he went home with the girl and then complained about it the next day about what she looked like. And I was like, wait, you're telling me that she wasn't attractive enough for you, but you didn't want to go home alone, so you settled? Like, what are you saying to me right now? Like,
some selfish shit.
Like that, like, I was like, I don't know if we can be friends anymore after that statement. Like, you should be grateful that someone decided to, like, share their person with you. Like, that's what you wanted. You ultimately got what you wanted, and yet it still wasn't good enough. Like, it's just... it's a strange place, and, like, that kind of thing, I was like, so it's just a person to you. It's just a warm body. Yeah. Next day, he goes on 3 dates, like, brings them all to the bar that I work at. And I'm like, I'm not helping you. I'm not going to tell them you're a good guy and that you're doing, because that's what he always would do. He'd bring a date over, and I'd be like, oh, hey, and be really nice to her because I'm nice to her. I don't want her to think that, like, I have something to do with, like, you know, my
Right.
friend. But then also, like, I want her to feel comfortable. I'm nice also. Like, I'll talk him up because he was my friend. But now I'm like, I'm not helping you do this, especially that I know, like, what you say about these women and, like, how you take advantage of them. And the same with, like, what was it? It was, like, and I was creative directing something. And I had, like, a whole, like, you know, everything written out, like, how we were supposed to do stuff. And then another person had an idea, which messed up the whole storyline. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that because of this. And they were questioning me because who am I, but the only woman on set? And I'm like, no, we're going to do it this way. And they're like, well, I just think. And I'm like, are you the creative director here? Do you get to decide what we get to do? No. Oh, okay. So then we're going to do it this way because this is how it goes. The whole camera crew agreed with me. The director agreed with me. You know, whatever. All right. I leave to go pick up, like, a prop. I come back.
The idea is happening.
The idea is happening. Completely undermined me. Completely. And, like, I was like, oh, okay. So you directly disrespected what I had to say in my authority. And not only did you do it, all the other men in here, after they agreed with me, decided because you're the talent that they're going to do it too. And I ended up, you know, arguing with him on the side and being like,
you're like, what gives?
you know, and he's like, well, you know, I'm just trying to have fun. We're all just trying to have fun. Yeah, we're all trying to have fun, but I'm a professional. This is a professional thing, and you are disrespecting me. Well, I don't think it's disrespectful. I just think that, you know, you need to be open to other ideas. I am. That's what the playwright was to begin with. Now that we have a set and we're shooting this day is not the day for you to throw out ideas.
Right. It's like we already know what's happening.
You know, we have, like, a schedule and, like, a thing to do. So, whatever. Every time I see the video, I get mad. Because, like, I'm like, that makes no sense in the whole thing. But
I swear, people, I have to deal with this with my job. It's just like people throwing it's like you're paying us to be the experts to come in and tell you how we're going to make this thing cool. And then you sabotage this cool idea by telling us that we need to change it and make it your idea because you want your say in it. And then it ends up being shitty and you pay for shit. And we're like, oh, I guess we have to let you have this because you paid for it. But like, we don't even I've literally made videos that are super cool. And then the client's like, can you change this, this, and this? And then I end up sending out a shitty video and I'm pissed about it. And they're like, yep, that's just the industry. Like, sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and let it happen. I'm like, why?
Yeah, why? Exactly.
Why did
they like
pay,
it.
It's like, why did
Apparently
they
they
pay
like
us? It's like a waste of money. People just need their ego stroked.
That's exactly what it was.
Because then they're going to show it to all their friends. Be like, I came up with this part.
Yeah. Well, so after that happened, they were like being like, oh yeah, well let's we're still cool, right? No, you literally disrespected my authority. Like, you literally disrespected my authority on purpose and then kept doing it the whole time. And then after, we're like having conversations and I'm like, dude, I'm just like, I'm
over it.
I'm over it. And over the summer, he was like, he said to one of my girlfriends, because I straight up ignore him. And he'll be like, I don't think Eliza likes me.
No shit.
And then she's like, you're probably right. I'm like, honestly, all he has to do is say sorry, but he's not gonna, because it's just the type of, he doesn't think he's did anything wrong, which is fine. Like, you know, if that's the case, that's the case. But, you know, I said my piece, and that's just kind of how it is with some people. I know, I mean, he literally did the same thing the other night. Not to me, because he knows I don't like him, but to my friend, who was literally, so she has a friend, and they do the same job. And it's like a male-dominated job. They work with trees. They're both arborists. And she was talking to him because he asked her about, like, what she was doing with, you know, trees and, like, her work and, like, everything. And they already know each other. She's like, oh, yeah, you know, we've been busy, like, you know, during COVID, it's been kind of hard, like, trees don't need as much maintenance, whatever. Goes to her friend that is a man, and he knew nothing about this guy, and was like, what do you do for a living? He's like, oh, I'm also an arborist. And he goes, oh, well, I might have a job for you. And I was like, you were just spent 10 minutes talking to this other arborist. You meet this one man, and then you're offering him jobs when you, like, I was sitting there, I was like, you don't know his work. You don't know anything about him.
He could be like a shitty arborist.
You know?
But just because he's a dude, you're like, oh, relatable.
Literally sitting. We were all sitting like at the same table, and he turns to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to keep you in mind." And my friend's like, "Oh, okay. I'm just here. You just talk to me all about all these trees and all my knowledge, and you just." And I said to her, I was like, "See, he has no idea why I don't like him right now. He has no idea why I'm mad at him."
Unfortunately, I feel like some people like that, no matter how much you say something, even if a dude says something to them, they're never gonna change.
Nope. Mm-mm.
And I think that's just true for any of these social causes, is that there's always just gonna be
Absolutely.
a group of people, no matter what you say or do, they think they're gonna be right, and that's the end of it.
Because they can't see life from another perspective.
No.
It's just it just, and then like, I don't know, for me, I think that I don't know what it's like to be a white man, you know? So like, you know, and I don't say that doesn't have its own struggles, especially like now when there's a lot of stereotypes around it. I don't necessarily think it's like harming like a group as a whole, but there are people that get harmed from that. There are people that like feel, you know, like some type of anger or aggression is misplaced just because of who they are. And I don't think that's right, you know? I don't think that people should just jump at people for that kind of stuff. But there are people that need their privilege checked, you know?
100%.
And the idea that people think that privilege comes from just skin tone like is factual, but there's also this idea where people think that privilege only comes from financial gain. And like, you know, like white privilege has nothing to do with financial privilege. And a lot of people try to equate them, but like just they're not saying, and I've had to explain this even to like my father. I was like, Dad, white privilege has nothing to do with how you grew up. You could grow up poor, you can struggle your entire life, you can, you know, have all these terrible things happen to you. But the thing is, it's just saying that your skin tone did not cause you more harm. That's it. That's all it's saying. It's not saying that you lived a better life than anybody, you know, for your financial stuff. Like, it just says that whenever you drive your car, no one's going to ask you if it's yours, you know? Or like people,
or if you're in a neighborhood that's predominantly white and you're not,
they're not going to call the cops on you.
Yeah, while you're at your own house.
Yeah. I mean, you could walk down, you know, in a you know, minority neighborhood and not have the cops call on you, you know, like as a white person. And like even for me, like I've had people, you know, again, try to guess my ethnicity really, really frustratingly at the bar. I've had people like, you know, like I said, call my sisters and I half-breeds. I've had people tell me that because I'm cold, like, because I'm always cold, they're like, oh, I don't know, maybe from wherever you're from. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, we're in America. And I was like, you don't think you guys are in America? Like, what? What, I can't be American? What? Like, it's so strange.
So from this experience, like, what would you say the best way could be to bring people together that do have like these differing opinions?
I think learning to communicate, and I think understanding why you believe something is important, because a lot of people believe things just because they were told them,
and they don't like
they've
never like thought about that belief.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with like religion, you know, like. A lot of people, I think, you know, grow up with a certain religion because their parents grew up with that religion and their parents grew up with that religion. And then, you know, there is this point in your life where you have to decide whether what you were taught makes sense for you and for, like, what you want to be. And I think that questioning yourself, questioning why you think these things, why, like, when people talk about like a huge thing right now, right? Trans issues. People talk about trans issues. Why is it your business? Please explain that to me. Well, because of bathroom predators. If you think that all trans people are predators, then you aren't talking about trans people. You are talking about predators. There's predators in all aspects. Well, they're all pedophiles. And it's like, oh, well, they're not, but like, your cousin could be one because he's 30 dating a 16-year-old, but you're not going to say anything about that, you know?
Right.
And it's this thing where, like, I think people need to understand that there, like you said, there's bad people all over, there's crimes all over, but that even though people use that to like kind of like shape, you know, what they think good or what they think bad is you have to question what you think good and bad is, you know, because at one point, you know, people thought it was bad for gay people to get married. Why? Because of what they interpret their religion to be like, or because it's just unnatural to them to think about,
or it's just uncomfortable for
right
them.
Like, you know, and I'm like, it's completely natural for someone to feel attraction to the same sex. It just is. Like, if they don't, that's natural too. Like, it's something that comes. I had my class, middle school class, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired because we were having a conversation over sexuality. I teach art. That's not really a conversation we should be having, really, I think. But, like, also, we should be, because this is a topic that the kids brought up, right? It's not me pushing my own agenda. It's the kids brought it up. So one of my girls in my class came out as bisexual because she painted a tree and she put, like, the flowers on the tree were the colors of the bisexual flag. And she was explaining her painting to the class. And she's like, you know, I did this because I'm bisexual. And then everyone kind of got quiet for a second. And then someone was like, well, that's cool. And I was like, awesome, you know. And then another person was like, well, I'm Christian, and I don't think that I feel comfortable with that. And I was like, well, why? You know, what about it makes you uncomfortable? And she's like, well, I don't know. I think a man and a man, like, it's okay, but, like, women and women make me uncomfortable. And I was like, well, you know, that's very interesting. I was like, but, you know, you being uncomfortable with a situation that maybe you haven't been exposed to or you don't understand doesn't make it wrong, you know. And I was like, if you didn't know this about, you know, said student, would you think anything differently of her? No. Do you think anything differently of her now? No, because you're her friend, right? Yeah. Well, why can't you think that way of everybody? You know, like, why... You know, why is it anybody's business, or, like, you know, whatever. So we had those conversations. And the same with, like, so from that, she's like, well, I'm Christian and blah, blah, blah. And somebody else was like, well, the Bible's this. And they start going off about, like, whatever. And I was like, look, guys. I was like, you can believe whatever you want to believe. You can, whatever religion, whatever spirituality you want to believe in. If you want to, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too. But just understand that all of these things that you're being taught right now has been interpreted by humans. I was like, so it can be changed by humans.
What is your spiritual belief, by the way?
I consider myself pagan, but I go towards more of like Maya spirituality. So you believe in, like, the cosmoverse and, like, you know, kind of like everything having,
so
like,
that ties
its own,
in, like, astrology.
Kind of. I mean, like, so they go by, the calendar goes by, or changes every couple years, and then it's more, Aztec was more about astrology. They had, like, different ceremonies that go along with the stars. But for us, especially the Maya culture was completely wiped out. You know, they're still practicing Maya, and there's still you know, different indigenous groups. Like, I belong to the Yucatec Maya, so they're north Belize and South Mexico. So that's where, like, my group of people are. And then there's, like, people in, like, Guatemala and, you know, whatever. But for us, it was very hard to keep culture, because when the Spaniards invaded, they destroyed all the Maya books, right? There's, like, none. I think there's, like, 8 in existence. And they destroyed all, like, the Maya customs. So we had to, like, hide customs in Catholicism, which was very strange, I think, for, like, the people, but it helped them kind of cope with stuff. So you see, like Guadalupe, she's actually, like, the divine feminine of Maya culture, and they have the same symbols, but they were, like, morphed into one, right? But it's a lot of, like, believing in everything having its own, like, essence, right? And everything having, like, a purpose and energy. Even, like, when you're, like, ill, like, you know, it's, like, energetic that you can, like, heal as well. Lots of different herbs and, like, stones do different things and that whatnot. I'm not a shaman, you know, but I kind of go towards more of that.
Well, you're a healer, so it does tie into it.
Yeah. I wanted to go and learn. There's, like, a special abdominal massage that the Maya do. and that you like go in and literally manipulate like the organs and stuff. And I wanted to learn that really bad. It's so expensive to like, take certification for it, but it's just like a beautiful thing, I think. It's
and
so
in terms
vibrant.
of just staying healthy in your daily routine, what does your diet consist of? Like, do you exercise? Do you meditate? What's that like?
I used to do way more of that when I was going to school for healing arts. It was so much easier because I was around the community that, did that. Right. So every class we started with a meditation, and every class we ended with a circle. And it was cool because if we were doing class, we could sit on the floor, and we were always encouraged to eat healthy. And we were literally a drop off for organic food. So like we had that. Now it's so much harder. And I find myself really missing that. So like meditation, I haven't really gotten into like to meditate in probably like 3 months, and it's not that I haven't had time really. It's just that like
the community.
Yeah. It's
You're
like
not exposed to it around.
And the same with like eating healthy. Like I try to stick mainly with like a vegetarian diet. But even lately, it's like, I don't feel like cooking, like I Anthony and I, we cook for the two of us, and then we have like all these dishes. And then sometimes we're like, you know what, we'll just get takeout. And then that just becomes a habit. Yeah. We've been trying to break lately. And exercising, I do not exercise in the winter. I don't have like, yeah. Like I like to do things outside. I like to like dance and like to like do stuff, and like exercising. I feel like exercising in my house is so hard. Everything, we have so much gear, like all of his music gear and all my painting stuff and like my streaming gear and like all this stuff. And it's like, so we have this tiny little space, and I'm like, man, this does not feel like good energy for me to exercise in. I could, but I don't. Not now.
Yeah.
Yo, I was just...
We're getting to 3 hours.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, wow, this conversation has taken so many like, caveats, and it's been so interesting. Only because, like, I don't want to, like, hold you here forever.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's fine.
We could talk forever.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, too, I feel like when podcasts are less than this long, it's because at some point the person talking feels, like, mentally exhausted from sharing so much.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily catching those vibes from you. Like, you seem like
I mean,
like I'm dying, you're starving for a social
I'm
interaction.
a streamer, I'm used to talking to myself.
True.
I'm used to sitting there being like, what else can I talk about, guys?
No, this has been really awesome. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you like wanted to talk about?
I don't know.
I always ask that, and people are like, oh, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we talked about lots of stuff. I mean, like, if you guys have any other questions.
So in terms of, like, everything that we've talked about, you started this conversation saying that social causes is something you're really passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of wrap up everything that we talked about and, like, tie a bow around it, the question I'm going to ask is how, if you were to die not like that. Out of your whole entire life experience, like what kind of impact would you want to leave on humanity?
See, that's difficult a question. I don't know, like just like honestly just a net positive one, whatever that is, like whatever that is, touching somebody's life, whether it's touching one person's life or touching like all these other people's lives, like as long as like I feel like I've done something to better everything, like to better, even if it's just like one thing, it's still everything, It's like that's what's important to me, I think, and that's why I get involved. I feel in so many things that I believe in, because if you don't, then how are those things going to get done? Like if you don't get involved in the things you believe in and you don't take the actions that you want to see done, then how is that going to change? Like you're going to expect other people to do it? You can't, because everybody else is doing that too. So
and you need to have that drive to push through all the adversity.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, because look, then you're just complacent. Then again, you're just a bystander, and I don't want to live my life being a bystander. And I hope that other people see that. Like they're like, oh, this, 5-foot girl is able to, like, have a voice and, like, stand up for herself to anybody. Like, hopefully people will be like, oh, okay, well, I'm a 5-foot girl too, and I can do that, like, that's something. And that's why, like, I think working with kids has been really meaningful to me, because I've been able to see that kind of, like, encouragement grow in them, even, like, whether it's, my streaming audience of young people, or whether it's, like, my students. It's just seeing their minds open, and like, being able to, like, be there for them, taking steps towards being just, like, better in society, and, like, being conscious, like, opening their eyes to things that I myself didn't realize were things when I was younger, but they're so connected now. They're exposed to all these things. They need to be taught about it. And if they're not going to hear it from a reliable source, they're not going to hear it from somebody like me who's going to be responsible and, like, want good things from them. They're probably going to hear it from people that don't have those same interests, or those same intentions.
Right.
And so, like, if not me, then who?
I love that theme has been kind of following this whole conversation around. I think it's a really strong sentiment.
Yeah.
Taking personal responsibility and doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that it can speak to literally anyone. Like, there's so many situations I can think about where I'm like, damn, I really wish I didn't stand by and do nothing.
Yeah.
Or X, Y, and Z. And
Yeah.
I think
It's
everyone
learning.
can probably think about that. So
Yeah, it's all learning, and it's something that I picked up from learning myself, and it's a lesson that I learned that I can then be impactful for, and, like, tell people younger than me. If not you, then who?
So given that you want to leave this impact, what, I guess, based on all the different creative things you're doing, where do you see yourself going with all this stuff you're doing?
Oh, hell if I know.
Do you have any, I guess, plans in mind for anything that you're doing, or are you just kind of letting life happen?
Yeah, I'm pretty much, right now, I'm definitely letting life happen. I think that leaving yourself open to opportunity is really important, because then you can connect with people. And again, sharing your thoughts, and as an artist, having a platform where you're sharing what you believe in and the messages that you want to share will attract other people, right? And then you can be part of something bigger. For me, I'm just hoping that, that happens, like, that I will find more people, and, like, that even if it's not something that I'm, doing, like, I'm the head of it, I still want to be part of something that it's going towards where I want society to go. So as goals for me wise, I don't know, I want to be someone that people can share stuff with. Like, I want to be someone that people can look at for, like, honesty, not just, like, pandering to different things, like honesty. Yeah, that's my goal. Like, I don't have, like, besides stability, I don't really have, like, a financial goal, or I want to, like, own this, or I want to, like, run this.
Well, I think that what you're doing is more impactful in the sense that it's a process that you can pursue every day, and you're not, like, trying to reach this expectation besides the fact of just doing it. It's not like this I want to be a professional athlete, and you have to reach this, like, pinnacle of success to then be like, oh, now I'm, like, living the life that I want to live. But instead you're, like, living it just already by doing, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's the idea.
It's accessible.
Yeah, I think it's the idea where people are always pressured to strive for the very best. And I think that creates, like, a lot of, like people not being satisfied with their lives, right? Because especially here in the U.S.,
always be better.
Yeah, it's about, like, what is it? What's the word I'm thinking of? Getting stuff done, right? Like, always about working, always about progressing, always about, whatever.
And you're about being.
Yeah, versus, like, you can have a productive day by doing nothing. You can have a productive day. A productive day does not necessarily mean that you finished this project, you worked on this, and now you're exhausted because you spent 12 hours working on something. A productive day can also be, I wasn't feeling good, and I need to take care of myself, and I need to watch a movie and, roll up a joint and just hang out. That can be productive because it's for yourself, it's for your happiness, and some people, especially people that suffer with depression, waking up, taking a shower could sometimes be the hardest thing. There's days where like I was super depressed and I didn't even want to get out of bed, and just getting up, taking a shower, maybe answering an email or two, like that was productive. And I could sit there and be like, oh my gosh, so lazy, didn't do anything today, only answered like 2 emails, and gosh, I like suck at life, like this is why I never get anything done. Or it could be like, well, actually I did something today versus yesterday, I didn't even get out of bed.
Well, I think the core of that is you're able to think for yourself, and you're not letting society's expectations get put on you.
I also think it's a new mindset. Like, I think that, especially here in the U.S., it's a lot about being productive and not necessarily taking care of yourself. And you see that with, like, mental health. Like, I think that schools they have health class, they should have mental health class, Like, I think that, it's a lot of people need to even be told that it's okay. Because a lot of people don't know it's okay. And they've been told their entire lives, you got to do all of this stuff to be successful at life.
Yeah,
like,
and it's so overwhelming.
What are your goals? Oh, I want to, be a millionaire, right? I want to be a millionaire.
Right.
I want to travel the world. I want to do all this stuff. But the majority of people, not because they aren't able to get to where they want to because they don't work hard. It's because it's not possible for everybody to be as successful as everybody else in that idea of success, right? And so, like, goals for me are more, I guess, like growing outward versus growing up, and I think that that's something that people should be reminded of, like,
and it shows just by what you've done and accomplished so far, like your expansive ability to be creative in so many different outlets.
I try.
You know what's funny too is I was just thinking, like, what you're saying is the epitome of literally this. A philosophy to a self-sufficient lifestyle. I feel like a lot of people think, oh, self-sufficient, like I gotta run a business to be that. And I was like, no, it's a philosophy. It's not the philosophy.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really about how you can sustain your life and be happy with your life.
Right.
And that's why, like,
it can be so different for everyone.
What you think success is and what I think success is and what you think success is all different.
Absolutely.
And that's totally fine. That should be that way.
Absolutely. There's times where, like, I'm laying in bed and, like, right now, I don't really have a job. I, like, stream. I'm not making lots of money, But there's times I'm, like, laying in bed. I'm laying next to my partner and I'm like, I'm really happy right now. Like, this is good. And we're not in, the best place. Like, we're not making a ton of money. We're not whatever. But, like, I'm okay. And that's
it's like
something
the monk
to be
lifestyle,
grateful of.
like learning to be happy and have well-being with nothing.
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with my upbringing because moving around all the time, couldn't keep anything, growing up very poor, we didn't have anything. And then just, like, continuing to, like, I think since I've been here, I've moved, not even Syracuse, but, like, in New York, I've moved, like, 5 times. It's, your home is, like, yourself kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
I agree.
Where can people find you? Where's all your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram. It's ELIZA J AZILE. It's my name spelled, my first name spelled backwards. I had to do that because there's too many stalkers. You can also find me with Right Mind Syracuse. It's an art kind of group where we do different art events all over Syracuse. We do virtual events. We do, like, some painting, some crafting, some planting. Really open to, like, anything. We've been working with a lot of local artists too, bringing them to do, like, guest events, which has been super fun. So we're, like, trying to grow the creative community while also inviting people to join. So you can find me there if you want to take workshops. You can find me on LIKEE, just my name, Eliza.mim. And
is that the streaming service?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you have, like, a similar, is it Linktree? You have something in
Yeah,
okay.
I have Linktree. You can find all the companies that I affiliate with on there. All those products I have tried and I like them, and I think the people that run the businesses are amazing, which is why I agreed to like work with them. A lot of them are herbs and that kind of stuff. And then I have like an herb and painting art page that I need to update, which is Living La Vida Bruja. So
nice. That's cool. So before we finish, we like to finish with a specific question, and it's kind of, it can get deep. It doesn't, there's no right or wrong answer.
Sure.
So the question is, what does it mean to you to be human? And just take that however you want.
Yeah, to be human, be alive. Like, honestly, I think that for me to feel like human, I need to connect with other people. Like, I need to have emotions and be able to create. Like, that's one thing that I think is very human, is the ability to create, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's just even just emotions and connections. To me, that makes us all human.
It's great.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Thanks for being on the
yeah.
podcast for
Thanks
episode
for
61.
having me.
Of course, this was great. Do you have
Any last words?
Any last words for the people?
Be kind.
Ooh.
3, 2, 1. So there you have it. Thanks again for tuning in to BINDLISM, a philosophy to self-sufficient lifestyle. Be sure to explore other episodes of BINDLISM on our Spotify and Apple podcast. You can find more Boho Hobo stuff on Instagram and Twitter at boho_hobo_, as well as on our Facebook page at Boho Hobo Lifestyle. It'd also be dope if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Our YouTube channel has more episodes from BINDLISM in video form, along with other random shenanigans that we're up to. We're constantly filming new experiences, so it's one way you guys can stay up to date with us in our journey. So yeah, I guess that's it for now. Until next time, peace.